if you're watching this on Facebook Live, thanks for tuning in. This week, I have my friend Tony Prisk on. Tony is a second trumpet player in the Philadelphia Orchestra, and prior to that, he spent 11 seasons in the Houston Symphony, graduate of the University of Illinois and McGill University. So, Tony, welcome. It's good to have you on here.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Thanks.
Always good.
Oh, it's good to see you, man. And you always have like so much going on, and especially during this COVID period, I've really liked the way you've stayed super active. Chase Domke, by the way, says hi.
Hi, Chase. That's one of my students at Peabody.
Oh, excellent. Very good.
Yeah, I'm at Peabody and Temple.
That's right. You're Peabody and Temple. So you between playing second trumpet in a major orchestra and teaching at two different schools in different towns. Stay busy during the year.
Last year was a busy year. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love it. Love staying busy.
Yeah. Well, this year you'll just be traveling from one end of your office to the other.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sometimes I just practice over there for a change of view, a change of scenery.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm not played into pictures or into a window, one way or the other.
Yeah, either I'm playing into a giant mirror on my computer or I'm, yeah.
Exactly. So, and you've been staying really busy during this period. I mean, you were doing a lot of recordings of orchestral excerpts and solo things and online solo concerts. Maybe before we kind of go backwards in your life a little bit, talk about the things that you're doing to keep yourself sane right now.
Yeah, I've actually I took a little bit of a break because I did a little bit of a road trip. Went to visit a couple friends. So I took a week or so off from doing stuff. Then I got back and now the last couple of weeks I had to teach at a couple festivals. I did the Trumpet Forward Festival, and I did the Philadelphia International Music Festival. We did a second week at the end of July. So that ended last week or 2 weeks ago, and now I'm getting back into some projects. I'm going to make some recordings again soon. So I had to regroup and change some things that I was doing, and I'm looking forward to putting out some new material. I've largely been trying to keep busy doing stuff that I know that I couldn't do during the year, like playing music that I don't, I can't play while I'm playing in the orchestra. Working up some solo repertoire that I've always wanted to play that I haven't, that I wanted to work on and play. And this is a really good time to do it. Maybe, making these videos of section excerpts was actually a thing I've been wanting to do for a long time. I wanted to show my, section playing skills. Of course, I have to play the first parts in order to, show that. And I know that's not my strong suit, and I know that it's a lot harder to do on the job. But and I highly respect all the principal trumpet players out there that do that on a weekly basis. But I just have to play it here in my studio. But I feel like if I do those videos without playing all the trumpet parts, you don't really get a sense for the section. And hearing a second trumpet part by itself doesn't necessarily show the skills of playing second trumpet. So I like I've been wanting to do that for a long time because I feel like there's maybe not as much second trumpet educational material available. So I'm actually coming up with another way to do that, and inspired by some of my present and past colleagues. Denise Tryon was doing some second or fourth horn videos and low horn videos, and I was kind of talking to her about doing some second trumpet stuff. So kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit and maybe introducing some section trumpet stuff. That really kept me busy for like the first 3 months. I was doing like one a week for like 12 weeks.
And well, I would imagine too that like as a second trumpet player, after playing the first parts and lining things up, it probably informs your second trumpet skills even more.
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to keep up my skills, and the only way I can do that is if I'm matching somebody. My colleagues were pretty busy doing other projects, and I know that Dave just had a baby and stuff, so he wasn't able to do anything and with me, and said that he was too busy. So I just said, well, I guess I got to play these with myself, and it was pretty good. Like actually, yeah, I feel like it was helping me keep up my skills, even though it was like in an earphone, like trying to, match myself. and then I'd be like, wow, Tony, you can't play that sharp on first trumpet if you're gonna match it on second. So like, so I would have to redo the first part, in order to like make sure that I didn't play it so out of tune, so that I could actually match myself. It was actually really informative, but I haven't worked on those first trumpet excerpts in so long.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was like a little bit of like, oh yeah, this is why I'm playing this music. Like, this is great stuff. It's really challenging, and it was a good challenge for me, especially the first like 12 weeks of this pandemic.
Yeah.
But then I had to do a recital for the Philadelphia International Music Festival, so I had to put together about an hour's worth of music, and record that. And throughout this whole process, I'm learning a lot about technology that I would have never known. I mean, I'm really basic, but it's like, learning GarageBand, learning iMovie, and putting things together, not using acapella. I'm not a big fan of acapella because of the proprietary, like, the clauses that you have to sign your life away when you do it. You have
Oh,
to say, you have to say, hey, yeah, I don't care what you do with my music. So I didn't want to deal with that. So I just came up with a new thing, and I found everything on YouTube. Just trying to like learn everything and asking questions to some people. And anyway, but like I learned a lot about technology, and so I was experimenting. Then my computer went. Right on a week when I was starting trumpet forward lessons and having to do master classes and things, and my computer just kept freezing every time I did Zoom. So like it just ran out of memory because I was making so many videos and things, and I tried to fix it, and I just panicked, and I went to Apple, and I was like, I need a new computer. What do you have? And I needed like something really good, and so I just, like this was like the first week of July, and and then I ended up like breaking down and buying a pretty expensive computer because that's all they had in stock.
Well, and it's what we're going to be doing for a while now.
Yeah, so I think it's worth it. I mean, now whenever I do anything on my computer, I can like do 20 things at once. I can do GarageBand and iMovie and have like Word open. I can have all these things going at the same time. I can share stuff really easily, and it's great. And the computer opens and closes really fast. It's been kind of actually, you know,
Yeah.
almost good for the soul, because like the other computer, I would just curse it all the time. Why is this taking so long? So yeah, it's great to have. And luckily, I was able to get this, in time to do all my classes and things.
Well,
But yeah, I've learned a lot about the computer stuff, and I still have a lot more that I want to do now. I want to learn manuscript stuff like Sibelius or I don't know what people are using now. I have to figure out what program to get. Maybe what's one of
Finale
them?
and Sibelius.
Finale or something. I don't know which one to use. I have to learn one.
I learned
And
Sibelius, but it seems like so many people use Finale. I don't know. I'm not a good guy to ask on that, but I can hardly figure out how to put a triplet in there. So
well, I mean, that's one of the skills I definitely want to learn before the end of this whole thing, because I just know that it takes so much time to kind of get used to the shortcuts and things, and I want to do that because one of the things I like to do when I teach, maybe we'll get into this, but one of the things I like to do when I teach is if I come up with an exercise for a student, I'll record it. I don't know, maybe Chase, if I've done anything like this with you, but I'll play something and I'll be like, this is what you should use for this excerpt, or this this technique that you need to learn, and then I'll record myself doing it in the lesson and say, this is the exercise that I created for this person, and I really want to write those all down and maybe have a little bit of a recording of me playing them or something, like, and I want to do it on something like Finale or Sibelius. So I want to learn that kind of stuff. I definitely want to learn. I've now become a member of the Creative Cloud, and I want to learn Premiere Pro and maybe Photoshop a little bit too, so that I can increase the video, the professionalism in my videos and stuff, or the more authentic look or something. I don't know, something that looks nicer than.
you definitely have somebody you sit near often that knows Photoshop very well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And he encouraged me to use the Adobe Creative Cloud, and if Adobe would like to, you can put a little,
Everybody
banner.
doesn't know we're talking about Jeff Kerr now and his amazing Photoshop skills, where it's amazing. The guy's wearing a Batman shirt with, I think, with Ulysses S. Grant and President Lincoln or something like that.
Yeah, right. I mean, he does. Yeah, it's pretty credible, and the coloring and lighting and all that kind of stuff that you have to do to make those current photos match the old photos. It's a skill, and he's got it. And he just learned it all, I believe, by I think he learned a lot of the stuff online and by trial and error. I mean, but he's been doing it a long time. He animated those
Oh yeah.
cartoons for so long, and he's a great drawer. I mean, the artistry is really great.
So
I always like it when I inspire one of his cartoons.
well, maybe we'll see a picture of you playing for like John Philip Sousa or something, like once you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, been keeping busy. The teaching is probably keeping me the most busy, which is good. I have a couple new students from this during this thing, and that's what I love doing, really. More than even making the videos and stuff. I just like teaching.
Yeah.
Love teaching. So
Talk about that a little bit, because what have you noticed that's evolved in your teaching over this period of being online? Because I think we all had like a learning curve where we were having to deal with students in a little bit different way.
Yeah, I think that I mean the shame of it is the sound thing. We can't. I mean, I invested a little bit. My mic isn't great, and I see people with the speaking mic and the playing mic and they've got their their interfaces and all that kind of stuff. I haven't gotten that far yet because I haven't had any complaints about this setup. Although I know it could be better. I think that's the biggest shame of this whole thing is that we can't really get a sense for what it's like to hear volume and depth of sound and richness, center, the clarity of the sound. So you can't sit next to a student and be like, hear how you don't hear this in my sound, but you can't really compare like that. Especially if the student's using Wi-Fi instead of connected. Like, I don't know how clear I am, but I'm using a
Real
Ethernet
clear.
connection.
Very clear, yeah. And there's no issues at all.
Using an Ethernet connection is a huge deal, and I think that is probably the best thing that I learned from this is to do that, because I was starting with the iPad and I got the microphone and I was doing it with my iPad, but then when I started using computer with an Ethernet connection, it was like game changer. Wi-Fi just has too many interference. There's too much interference. There's too many other things in the house that are like running off the Wi-Fi or the distance between my modem and my computer is like, it's down in the garage 2 floors down. So, it just the connections just aren't as good and the speed isn't as good. So anyway, I learned a lot that way. But anyway, the teaching, teaching wise, I feel like I am trying to be a little bit more positive reinforcement, kind of watching videos of watching other people teach has been great for me in this pandemic. Watching so many videos, watching so many interviews and videos, and hearing people talk about their teaching and watching them teach with Trumpet Forward. Dave Elton taught a great class at Trumpet Forward where students were doing stuff that I probably would have been a little bit more like, and he was like really encouraging, like, this is good, but we can do it this way. And it was like, oh yeah, that's a better way to do it than just like laying right into them. I'm really direct and sometimes to my fault, that I sometimes just say what comes to mind and no filter, and because of that, some people, it can really rub some people the wrong way, and I always try to apologize as much as I can for me, but it's just how I think. I'm pretty sure my twin brother's the same way. We're both very direct. Oh, sorry.
That's right.
I should put that on airplane mode. Anyway, I guess so. I've been trying to be more positive with students. I've been being a little bit more uh, probably trying to be a little clearer with my instruction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm not being very clear right now.
No, no, no. You're being perfect. So let's talk about your students a little bit because what kind of things like when you're dealing with like an undergraduate student and they're coming in, what are like the routines or the things that you find yourself coming back to and using a lot with maybe like your first and second year students?
Um, I think the first thing, and I'm sure that any of my students that are here right now, I know Chase is here. Um, the first thing that I want to do is instill good fundamentals and the intention about fundamentals and how important they are um, to playing music the way you want it to sound. That if you have a good foundation in your playing, that if you can sustain a note the way you want to sustain it, if you can articulate the note the way you want to articulate it, and you can play around the instrument with the sound that you want, that playing music is just a different order of the same notes. Um, and so what I like to do is to really get people set up with a good fundamental routine, not just a warm up, but a fundamental routine every day to add fundamentals to their warm up and to their practice sessions. That fundamentals should be music motivated. That that you hear a piece of music played and you want to imitate that music, but you may not have the fundamental skills to do it yet. So you need to work on it at the basic levels, like say the beginning of the album book,
Yeah.
And play those exercises with musical intent, just like you would on the really hard, difficult repertoire that you want to play. A funny thing I heard, I was watching Formula One race the other day, and Julie and I really get into Formula One. It's great.
Yeah, I know
She
you're a
knows
big
more
fan.
about it now than I do.
Wow.
I mean, I can't even tell you. Like, she got so much into it. She's got her favorite driver. She knows all the stats. She's like telling me the rumors or the news of like this driver's going to this team and blah blah blah. I was like, wow, I've created a monster. But we were watching the race, and the guy, I forget who it was that was driving that, went really hot into a turn and went off track. I think it might have been Nico Hulkenberg or something, and he went in way too hot into the turn, and he said he had more ambition than adhesion, and I was like, I immediately wrote that down and said, it's the same thing on trumpet or in music, that a lot of people have a lot more ambition than ability, and sometimes that means that they start playing repertoire that's way too hard for them way too soon. So I always like to take it back. Like, look, we want to play Tomasi, but let's play the beginning of the album book with the style or sound of Tomasi. So da 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 da, doing stuff like that, with the shimmer of maybe a Tomasi concerto or like the articulation that you want to use on that kind of repertoire. Same thing with like something like an excerpt like Pictures of an Exhibition. You don't have to play that excerpt over and over and over again if you just work on the beginning of the album book in different different transpositions and different ranges and just working on playing the sound and articulation that you want on those simple little etudes. And I think that that's what I want to instill first. Is like get those things really really honed in.
Yeah.
Before you start, like expecting yourself to play, the really hard repertoire. And sometimes I feel like, and maybe this because of the way this is where I came from, but I didn't really start learning excerpts until my sophomore, junior year in college, where a lot of people like learn them in high school when they really shouldn't be playing them yet, because there's some really difficult stuff that people just start playing and then they have to relearn them later. And I want it to be like you learn it the first time the right way.
Right.
I don't want you to go through what I went through of
Right.
like relearning stuff, or like I didn't have to do it as much because I didn't learn it in high school. I started learning it later, but But I did. There was a lot of stuff that I played the Tomasi Concerto when I was a junior in college, but I didn't really perform it until my master's degree because I really had to unlearn some stuff that I was doing wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stuff like that. I want to really instill those good basics and fundamentals, and I want there to be a a musical motivation for practicing them. You know, who are you listening to? You know, how are you listening to the music? You
Right.
know, and that's the thing. Actually, I had with a student. Um, who was it? Oh, it was my student Anthony Casella at Temple. We were talking about a recording, Phil Smith's excerpt CD,
Yeah.
which we've all listened to probably a million times, and especially back in the '90s when it first came out, it was like, oh, like this is the holy grail. This is how you win an audition.
We probably all imitated him speaking a gazillion times too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Good luck when it comes to Ravel piano concerto.
I asked him about that, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I want to hear what you're going to say, but I'll tell you that I had dinner with him and Brandon Craswell down here in Atlanta, and I just said, so when you recorded that and you said good luck and there's the big pause, was that on purpose? And he didn't say anything. He just kind of smiled and kept going with what he was doing. Like, I think that was a yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I mean we got a lot of that. I think
Right.
just hearing him play by himself with nothing else around it, But in that album, he plays in a really wet, reverberant hall,
Mhm.
and it's really easy to like imagine playing like the hall is making him sound. So like playing everything maybe a little too long, maybe playing a little bit too dark, maybe playing a little bit too and trying to play too big, like because his sound is so brilliant and focused in the middle and the core of the sound is there that in that hall it just goes, you know. So when you hear like we were working on the Beethoven Lead Number 2, and when you hear that on the album, it sounds like he's playing da 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 da, da 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 da. It's like but if you listen for it, if you listen to like what's coming out the bell, like forget about what's in the room, listen really intently what's coming out the bell or what he's probably doing behind the horn to make that sound happen. Because if you just listen to the room sound, you're gonna play it wrong. You're not, you're gonna make it sound in the hall. Like you need to make it sound like that at the back of the hall, not the front of the hall. So what it basically was telling him is like listen for what's coming out the bell. And when I started doing that, even when I was a student, like listening to those Reiner recordings or listening to those Schulte recordings or the New York Phil recordings, I was like listening with an ear, like almost like leaning into it, thinking, like trying to get as close to Phil Smith's bell as I could, or Bud Hers's bell, like wanting to hear what it sounds like without the orchestra there, And I think that is a huge thing for beginning for students, making sure they're listening correctly and listening a lot.
Listening a
One of
lot.
my first questions I like to ask like a young player is like, who do you listen to? Or what do you like to listen to? And when they tell me something that's like not trumpet related at all, like music that's not even classical, like they want to play in an orchestra, but they don't listen to any orchestra. They only listen to like, I don't know, like Billie Eilish or something.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, well, how's that going to help you to develop a trumpet sound? I mean, it might help you with maybe your expression or maybe your rhythm or something like that, but it might not really help you with your trumpet sound. So, I even had a student once where I asked them about what do you listen to, and they said, well, I don't really like listening to classical trumpet. And I said, why do you want to play classical trumpet? He's like, I don't know. And he decided that it wasn't for him. It was an eye-opening thing. It was like, oh yeah, I don't have to do this. Like, why am I doing this? I don't even like it. So yeah, that's something that I want to make sure people are doing, listening to the right stuff, or listening to at least listening to things the right way.
Well, that's probably a segue to go backwards to your own development when you were younger, because now you grew up outside of Chicago, right, in Illinois?
Yeah,
And,
Lombard.
yeah, how far is that from Chicago?
It's about 20 miles directly west of the city, directly west of the Loop.
So clearly, the Chicago Symphony was an influence growing up at that time.
I mean, I never went when I was growing up. We never went into the city. We only went into the city basically with school trips. Um, a couple of times we went down, I think, with the family, like to go to like the Field Museum or the um, what's the other museum? Natural, not the the
Yeah,
I
the
forget what it's called.
History Museum or whatever is.
What's anyway? Somebody tell me. The and the planetarium and the Shed Aquarium and stuff like that. I never even went to a Cubs game. I had been to a Sox game. I went with my neighbor's family. They had season tickets. But yeah, we didn't really go downtown very much. My grandfather had a bad experience like with work and driving downtown, and everybody thought it was too dangerous, and so we just didn't go downtown very often. I went on a couple of school band trips downtown and saw Canadian Brass play out in Aurora at the was it Paramount Theater? I forget what it's called. There's a theater out in Aurora that the Empire, I mean the Canadian Brass used to come to every year. Saw Maynard Ferguson, which was huge.
Yeah.
But Chicago Symphony was not a thing that I would do. That wasn't until college.
Okay.
So when I was in college, I used to go home, and then I would start getting into going to orchestra concerts, and I would go hear Bud play.
So what were you listening to when you were in high school?
Trumpet related stuff. I was listening to Doc Severinsen, Town Night Show Band. Like one of my favorite albums was Red Light, Blue Light, or Blue Light, Red Light. I always forget which one it is. Harry Connick Jr. Listening to Roger Ingram and the other guys play. It was also, a lot of my band director gave me a lot of Count Basie and Duke Ellington band tapes. They used to like burn me tapes.
Yeah.
Used to make me some best of kind of tapes. There was a jazz trumpet player in town, and I wish I remembered his name, that gave me a few jazz lessons. And he, I wish who it was. He taught at a local music store in Lombard. And he just gave me a bunch of like chord changes for like Dixieland tunes and stuff like that. I wish I would have like done more with that. But I really wanted to be a jazz player. I loved playing lead in big band. And in fact, my freshman year in high school, I told my band director, I said, can I just quit regular band and just play in jazz band? And he wouldn't let me.
Yeah, of course.
Thank God. I mean, I'm glad he didn't, because, he's like, if you want to play in jazz band, you got to play in regular band. And he wouldn't let me quit, which was great. In fact, my freshman year in high school, I was in the intermediate band. My high school had 3 bands, intermediate, concert band, and symphonic band. It was a big high school, big band program at the high school. Glenbard East High School, Ross Kellen, amazing guy, rest in peace. He was actually just a huge influence on my life. I wanted to be a band director because of him. And because of guys like Greg Cunningham, who was his assistant band director, and Stephen Hoffman, who was also there at the time. Both those guys were like really inspirational. In fact, I sat down with the intermediate band director when I was a freshman, and he's like, you're a better player than this band. You just can't count. And, I just never really learned how to count. And here's something I have on my twin brother. He quit clarinet after 8th grade, or 7th or 8th grade. And it was because, he had a really good ear and he can play all this stuff on clarinet, but he couldn't read music. And now he's an orthopedic surgeon. but he couldn't count. He couldn't really play the notes. He was learning everything by ear, and he just really freaked out when it came to like going to performances, because he really wasn't as prepared, or didn't really know when things started to get too hard to play by ear anymore. He just didn't enjoy it anymore. So I don't know if that's what he would say, but
and it was a clarinet.
He was actually yeah, it was probably that. But us trumpet players love to bust on clarinetists.
Yes.
But I actually wanted to play the clarinet, and he probably I think he wanted to play trumpet or saxophone, and and we got stuck with the other instruments anyway. But he he was actually a better musician than I was. He could actually play better than I could. But it just, he got frustrated with it and decided to go a different route. When we were in high school, I did band and running. I was in cross country and track, and he did gymnastics and German club. So, but anyway, so he went in a different direction. But I guess I digress. Greg Cunningham sat me down and said, Tony, like, you can play the trumpet. You have a good sound, and I could play a high D when I was a freshman in high school. And he was like, we need you. And I was playing, in the top big band, but I couldn't count. So he said, you just have to learn how to count. Just learn how to read music, and he got me really to focus on that. And once I started doing that, I just started loving music a lot more, Yeah. And that's what I try to tell my younger students now. It's like, just learn how to count. If you learn how to count, you'll be able to play anything anybody puts in front of you. And because you know the notes, you can learn the fingers, you can learn how they sound. But if you can't count, you can't put it all together. It's the most important part of music. It's the rhythm. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. But my band directors were such a big influence that I wanted to be a band director. I mean, I really wanted to do what they did and influence kids. And that's why I went to the University of Illinois as a music ed major.
But did you have a high school trumpet teacher, or did you just go straight into Illinois?
My high school trumpet teacher, I did take, I would say probably a dozen lessons. I don't remember how many. It wasn't that many. It wasn't it wasn't enough regular because I was so spread thin in high school. I worked 20 hours a week, on a part-time job, and I ran track and cross country, and I was in band, choir, and jazz band. I was an all-state chorus, but I was not an all-state trumpet player. Yeah. Don't ask me to sing. My students hear me sing. They don't. It's not good.
It is always surprising. I mean, I'm not shocked by that though. Like, I never made all-state band. I mean, not that I'm in the Philadelphia Orchestra, but I mean, I never did that. And then you wind up doing it for a living.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of it's just perseverance or the desire to just figure it out, or
a lot of people, like, they do really well in high school, but then they kind of get burned out later because they work so hard, and maybe they were working hard because their parents were pushing them really hard, and then they get to college and they get their freedom and they're like, nah. There was another student, Andy Glisson, that went to Northwestern as a music performance major, I believe. I believe he went there for trumpet performance and maybe switched to education. And I did the opposite at the University of Illinois. I think, he was studying with Chickowitz, but I think it was like one lesson a month or something. And when I heard that Chickowitz was only teaching one lesson a month, that was like, that didn't seem like right to me. I was like, I don't know if I want to go to school. I didn't even apply to Northwestern. My grades wouldn't have been good enough to get into Northwestern. I was not that kind of student. Andy was really smart. And I think he's a computer programmer now. I believe. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but it's like, he was a great trumpet player too. We did it. We did a bunch of solos and stuff together. He had a really nice sound. I had the lead chops.
He's heard you sing, by the way. I just saw that.
Was that?
Ryan Stransky said he's heard you sing.
Oh no. Yeah. Sorry, Ryan. But sometimes it's very good.
So you went to Illinois for music ed, and then while you were there, you're with Ray Sasaki and Mike Ewald both. Did you take lessons with both of them?
Yeah, mainly with Ray Sasaki for the first 3 years. I would go to all of Mike's classes and stuff, and I would ask him questions all the time and hear him play all the time. I guess I should start, like, at the University of Illinois. I started a music ed major. I was in the Marching Illini because I wanted to learn how to teach marching band. So, and I didn't think about being a performance major at all. Like, I had no idea that was even an option. So I was a music ed major, and this is how kind of like naive I was when I went to school. Like, I didn't know that you could be a performance major, or that you could make a living being a trumpet player. Like, I didn't really have that influence. I had met Chickowitz in high school because my band director was friends with him. My high school band director's dad was principal horn in the WGN orchestra. Or he played horn in the WGN orchestra, and his brother played, I think, in Winnipeg. I forget it was Winnipeg, one of the orchestras up in Canada, and yeah, what was I gonna say? Like, I guess because I saw Chikowitz and like I was exposed to like to really great musicians and music, but I didn't know. I didn't know that there was anything more than being a great band director. So I wanted to be Ross Callan. I wanted to be the best band director in Illinois. You know, like or one of them. So so I was practicing a lot. I was practicing conducting. I was doing marching band. I was in jazz band. I played lead in the second big band at the University of Illinois. I played in the top symphonic band. I was 13th chair my freshman year because I still wasn't a great sight reader at that point. But I was able to get in the top symphonic band, and that was huge because there were doctoral students in that band. You know, Jim Bavinet was playing there. I forget some of the other people's names, but there were some really great players. You know, doing their doctorates. Chris Crummell was one of them. I don't think he was playing in that band at the time, but he was around. And I heard these players play, and I was just like, you know, I want to play like that. You know, so when I would hear these people play, I was go to the practice room and try to imitate all the stuff that they were doing. Yeah. And I just realized how quickly that I needed, you know, like that there was so many things that I had to learn how to do. There was a lead player, Sam Hankins. There was Jeff Helgeson, is this jazz trumpet player. He played with Ray Charles and went on the road. He doesn't do it professionally, although he does play a lot. He's an amazing jazz bebop player. I would like try to like go hear these people play all the time, and was like trying to pick up as much information as I could. I was asking questions, and it was just crazy. Tom Berkner was the director of the jazz band at that time. And then later it was Tom Wordle, Shab Danur. You know, so there's Ray, there was Tom, there was the two Toms, there was Mike Ewald, and then all these doctoral students. And I was just like, you know, like, you know, eating it up. So between my freshman and my sophomore year, I stayed on campus that summer. Because I had nothing else to do. So I took a couple summer classes, and my high school band director, Steve Hoffman, actually paid for that class for me. Because I didn't have enough money to pay for the class. But he said, I'll pay for you to stay on campus that summer. So basically, I think he gave me, I forget, it was like $500 at the time for a summer class. It was so cheap, you know, like compared to what it is now. But it was not expensive. But he basically lent me the money. He said, take this class. And I still owe him. Steve, if you're watching, you know, I owe you. You know, because I took this class and I dropped out halfway through the summer semester because I took German. And it was like accelerated. It was like 4 hours a day or something like that. And everybody in the class could already speak German. It was a total sham. You know, it was like a thing for people to get a credit for the summer, you know? Yeah. But anyway, I stayed there that summer and I practiced. I was working in Carol Morgan, jazz player, and Kevin Voss came to study with Ray Sasaki that summer. They were both studying at Juilliard at the time with, I think, Prisk and Mark Gould. And they both came to study with Ray for the summer to learn bebop. And so I was playing in the big band at the school that summer, and I was hanging out with them. You know, we were hanging out a little too much in some way. I was only like 19 or 18 or 19, and I was doing stuff that I should not have been doing when I was 18 or 19. But we were hanging out a lot. We were practicing together a lot, and you know, and I was discovering that I just loved practicing. And after that summer, went back, you know, to the University of Illinois again. I mean, it was back on campus doing marching band again in the fall. And halfway through the fall, I was like, I don't want to do this marching band thing anymore. But so I would start showing up late to rehearsals, so I didn't have to march the show. And I, you know, like I would show up late to the marching rehearsals. I would always be on time for the music stuff, but I would just like show up late on purpose so I didn't have to march the shows. Because if you show up late, you just have to sit in the stands right, while they march the show. And little did they know, I did not want to march the show because I didn't want to waste my chops like playing all day on a Saturday when that could be a good practice day for me. Like, you know, I was getting really beat up by playing marching band. So I discovered that halfway through that semester, I want to perform. I want to be a trumpet performance major, and I came to that because I was coming into my lessons that I was having with Ray Sasaki because I was a music ed major. He was putting my lessons were like 8 o'clock in the morning. Like it was rough. Some days I'd show up and nothing would be coming out. I'd be like, I was playing in big band, playing in marching band, playing in symphonic band, doing I was in brass quintet. It was just so much stuff. I wasn't playing an orchestra yet, but I would show up to rehearsal, and show up to these lessons, and I just couldn't play. And one day Ray was like, "Look, what were you doing?" It's like I was up until 2 a.m. practicing conducting. He's like, "Okay, let's talk. You have the drive and what it takes to be a professional trumpet player, and you also love the conducting thing." And he said, "You should decide which one do you want to do."
Wow.
And he said, "I am fully 100% supportive of you if you want to be a performance major." So, which gives me goosebumps to this day because somehow he knew that I had that drive, Yeah. Like, it makes me like a little verklempt almost thinking about it because he was so encouraging, and I love it when I have a student like that where I'm like, I want you to, like I know you can do it, and I guess he saw that in me. So so I switched to performance. He said you could always go back to teaching, not because it's a fallback, but because you love it. And I always tell people that too. It's like it wasn't going to be a fallback for me. It would have been the main thing for me, and it's probably why I love teaching so much even now.
Right.
Is that I've always wanted to be a teacher, but so I just went full steam ahead. Now my dad was not like really all that encouraging of that. He was like, "What? You're not going to be a teacher? What are you going to like? Go start doing shooting heroin and you're going to get a bunch of tattoos and actually." My stepmom, Jackie, said, "Oh, I thought you would be coming home with a bunch of tattoos and piercings and stuff because you're trying to be a musician." So, I remember she said that to me one time coming home. And I was like, "Yeah, well, it's not quite like that in the classical trumpet world,
right?
Unless you've met John Dante." But
no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he'll see this. The word will get out.
Oh, I had a grandmother worried that I was going to be playing in strip clubs.
Oh yeah.
And this was when I was in high school, so
that's what they did back in the day. They played vodka.
And I've heard that things have changed.
Exactly. I mean, I think I didn't even know until I met Paul Merkello. I didn't even know that playing in an orchestra was a viable option for having a regular paycheck. And I guess that will kind of transition to me why I wanted to play an orchestra was that between my sophomore and junior year of college, I played at Busch Gardens in the German band. And I was playing with a bunch of different types of players. Jeremy Milishevich, I think is how you say his last name.
Oh yeah, no, Jeremy.
He was an ox of a trumpet player, and listening to him do his Bill Adam routine because we lived together that summer. Hearing him do his Bill Adam routine every day was like eye opening to me, like the sound that he was making. And then I took a lesson with Steve Hendrickson that summer. Mm-hmm. Who I was like really green on excerpts. Basically, it was because I heard guys like who was it? Oh man, I'm just drew a blank on his name real quick. Greg Harper, bass trombone player. Mm-hmm. He was in the band and he was practicing excerpts. Like he was like playing Kodai and stuff, and I was like, "What is that? It's really cool." He's like, "Well, this is this piece and this piece." And then Ken Easton was also there. He was a student at Eastman studying with Charlie and Barbara, and he was practicing excerpts all the time and like killing it. I mean, like he had everything memorized. He was like playing Charlie's on C trumpet in B flat, memorized. His father was a trumpet player apparently, and he was just like he was kind of like a little bit of a genius mentality kind of thing. Crazy guy. I won't get into those stories. Right. Crazy guy. But man, between Jeremy and Ken that summer, I was like, oh, I got to step up my game. And you could ask anybody that played in that band. I practiced between every show. Yeah. Like I was fried by the end of every day because I was practicing between every show. And and I went back to the University of Illinois that summer. After that summer, and I took auditions for like the Danville Symphony, for the Champaign-Urbana Symphony, and for the U of I Symphony, and all these kind of little groups, and I won most of the jobs. So all of a sudden, now I'm getting like paychecks from like these little regional orchestras, these little pickup orchestras or whatever, and I'm realizing, oh, the jazz gigs were paying like a meal or a free beer or whatever, but the classical gigs are like actually paying my rent. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I mean, I love this music too. So and then I heard Paul Markella play, and he was from Champaign Urbana, and he studied with Ray in high school, and I think he did a year at University of Illinois, or maybe a semester before he went to Eastman. But his mom was in town, so he would come and visit, and he would just practice the music school. And I would hear this guy practicing, and I'd be like, well, duh, I want to sound like that. you know, Ray Sasaki is a great soloist and everything, but he didn't really play an orchestra that much. And Mike Ewald's also he was a good orchestra player, but he was like a little bit more of the studio kind of player, kind of sound, I guess. Maybe it was like a little bit more brilliant. And hearing Paul play was like, and I knew that Paul was winning auditions, and I was like, oh, I need to study with this guy if I want to get a job, you know, because he knows how to win jobs. He was like winning auditions at that point. So that's where that influence, I think, was huge for me. I saw he carried himself really well. He's super confident, and he was like driving a nice, I think he had like a 4Runner or something like that at the time, and it was like, yeah, I want, my car was so bad. It was such a little piece of, it was a little jalopy. It was like a little Mazda GLC. I mean, it was, and me, I'm a car guy, so like
not a jalopy.
Huh?
Your car now is not a jalopy.
No, I hope not. But yeah, and neither was my brother's car, by the way. He just bought a Ferrari. Oh. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, there was something about like the whole, the way he carried himself and everything, and the way he sounded, and I just wanted to do that. So, so he was a huge influence there. And then I went up to Montreal to study with him with an orchestral studies degree. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what just led me to New World and to Houston. I mean, just kind of snowballed for me after that. I just worked my tail off. I don't know. I mean, anybody that knows me, like when I was in Aspen between my junior and senior year in college, I didn't go on any hikes. I didn't do anything that you're supposed to do when you're in Aspen. Like, I missed out on a lot of things. But I had a lot of catching up to do. I felt like Ben Wright was there, and he was sounding amazing. He was getting all the top orchestras, and even John Marciando was like taught me how to play Ravel piano concerto that summer. Matt Harding was playing lead in the big band that I tried to play in, and he had chops. Mike Mergen was there. Chris Boobles, they were all. I mean, Chris is, I think, and he can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was either Chris or Mike had an amazing record CD collection, like, and every recording you could imagine. We would go over there. I don't know how often we did this, but I remember like listening to some really great recordings with them. But those guys like all like got me really into it. There was I was friends with this guy Houston Heyman, and he ended up being a friend in Houston. Apparently he was named Houston because he was conceived in Houston. There's just so many players, and I'm sorry if I'm leaving people out. But
that's a big Michigan crew you had that year, though.
Oh, it was big. Yeah, there was like a little bit of a Michigan mafia, if you will, because it was the same thing with violin. Like there was a lot of like cantor students that were there.
Was Chris Hart there?
God, I wish I knew that name.
He was a trumpet player at the same time, but maybe not.
There's another Mike there. Mike Jury. Mike Jury was there. Isaac Pulford, I believe. I think he was in Indiana, though. He was an Indiana guy. Bob White was there.
Bob White was there, yep.
Yeah, Bob White was there. Yeah, Bob White and I hung out a lot. God, I can't believe I forgot that. Yeah. But I think Bob and I got into a lot of trouble.
That's, yeah.
God, there's so many people there that summer. If I can remember, I remember John Marciando throwing a mouthpiece across the across the stage, backstage area. He like got so mad he threw a mouthpiece across. I'm trying to remember all those things. Anyway, but Ray Mace and Chris Gecker were still teaching there, and Lou Ranger. So I studied with all three of them that summer because that was the summer that Ray Mace had his first baby, and I don't know if he had more than one, but I think his daughter was born that summer, and so I was supposed to study with Ray Mace, and then the first 4 weeks I studied with Lou Ranger and Chris Gecker, and that was great. I mean, getting all of them, having lessons with all of them, it was really fantastic. I can remember stuff from every one of my lessons with each one of them. So, anyway,
three incredibly smart people. I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, inspirational people. I mean, like they're just incredibly intelligent, incredibly talented, incredibly gifted players. Each one of them has. I mean, Chris Gecker was probably one of my first influences playing second trumpet because when you heard him play with Ray Mace, you just couldn't tell who was playing. I mean, like even you can listen to those recordings, you can't really tell. I mean, now that I know Ray's playing a little bit more, like maybe I can tell when he's. But like. Their sounds match so well, and you know that is like Chris is skilled to match because Ray has such a unique, beautiful, amazing, dominant just musically dominant. You know what I mean? Like just like you just feel every note he plays, and Chris could do that. He could match it, and then Chris can is a chameleon. He could he can sound like Miles Davis if he wants to. It's incredible. He can sound like Maurice Andre playing piccolo trumpet. It's like it was sick. I mean, listening to them play in brass quintet that summer, that was like when they recorded Fire and Lightning, I believe. It was like, it was incredible. I even got the opportunity to watch an American brass quintet rehearsal when they were recording their album with the Bach triptych. And I believe I forget what else is on that. Maybe it's Samson and stuff. But I got to hear a rehearsal of them like working on the Bach, the Jan Bach thing, and or Jan Bach, or how do you say his name?
Jan.
But hearing them rehearse that and the way they were doing it and the discussions that were happening, it was so amazing for me to hear that because my friends from the summer, my sophomore year summer, Kevin and Carol, they both were going to Juilliard, and Carol got me into this rehearsal. She also got me a lesson with Jim Pandolfi, which because he apparently owed her a lesson. She gave me the lesson.
I just talked to him 2 nights ago.
Oh, great! I doubt he even remember me, but I went in and played the Hindemith for him, and he played it up an octave. He was like, oh damn! like it was like.
And you never wanted to play flat again in your life after that lesson.
Yeah. I don't remember much from that lesson except that he was like showing me that you had to play with this, like this personality,
Yeah.
Oh God, sorry, I've gone on so many tangents here, but
oh, that's all right. No, we were just talking about your
me.
progression because it's interesting. I mean, there's some people that have like this kind of what seems to be perfect training, and they go on and they have careers or they filter out, and then there are people like you where you've had to. It's like I was talking to Paul Pollard the other week. He grew up in, south of Atlanta, 40 miles, didn't have any high school trombone teacher. Now he's bass trombone in the Met, and it's sort of like. There's either a chip on your shoulder or you're so exposed to everything you become such a sponge.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is there are some things you need. Like you need the exposure, I think, when you're younger to music of some sort. So you have a little bit of that. You have to have a little bit of an ear. My brother and I always used to talk about like that maybe we were special in a sense that like we had superpowers that we could always tell where music was going to go.
Yeah.
Like where we were listening to a piece of music. Like my grandfather or somebody who had music in the car. Everybody always had music going around the house, whether it be like, who was that country singer that sang all like my grandma got ran over by a reindeer and like the he those funny.
I'm embarrassed to admit that I think it was it Ray Perkins? Does that sound right?
Maybe, yeah. I forget. My grandfather used to play those tapes in his car, and we would go shooting to the shooting range, and he'd always have this music going. But anyway, like either whether it was classical music or if it was like any type of music, I always felt like I knew where the progression was going to go.
Right.
Like I could always sing the next note. I mean, of course I couldn't, but we could hear something about the harmony or something about the melodic progression that my brother and I both we had. I remember having that discussion with him in the backseat of a car one time, going like shooting, you know. And I wonder if he remembers that same conversation. I mean, I don't know if he's watching, but you know. Anyway, maybe he'll see this and he'll comment. But so I think you have to have that when you're younger a little bit. You have to have a little bit of that musical influence of some sort.
Yeah.
But I caught up. You know, like
Really?
there's still things that I feel like if I would have studied a lot more when I was in high school, or if I would have been that more proactive about fixing certain things, that I wouldn't have some of the troubles that I have now. Like there's some rhythmic things that I'm not great at, or there's some, you know, like some chop stuff that maybe I didn't really learn great in the beginning. Like I was just playing high notes the way I thought, you know, I was just going on pure, like, I really had to overcome some difficulties because I just kind of played instinctually as opposed to like learning it correctly. So, but I think that's made me a better teacher because I did have to go back and relearn some stuff, and I'm still relearning. Like I'm still tearing apart my playing and trying to put it back together again.
Right.
But yeah, it's something to remember. I mean, as Paul probably said, and it was as a lot of people probably say, like you can catch up. I think it's not too late to catch up in college, but you really have to work hard. I mean, it's like I immersed myself. When I said I wanted to play trumpet, I didn't want to look back. I didn't want to disappoint my dad. I didn't want to be poor. I didn't want to be a starving musician. Like I love the artistry that some people do and stick to that. Like, this is the way I'm going to play music and that's the way I'm going to do it. There's great artistry in some of that, but and I did make some sacrifices with that artistry by saying I wanted to learn how to win an orchestra audition, because I can't do the voice that I want all the time. I have to do it in the confines of performance practice,
right?
And of intonation and rhythmic, accuracy and stuff like that. So it's a skill that I had to learn, and I have to make all the music that I express myself to the best of my ability within those confines, within that box. And anytime you step out of that box, somebody's going to be like, you might turn somebody off. Now you might turn somebody on too. Like they might be like, yes, that's it. That's like, this is the, so there's a fine line. You have to, you have to show personality, but at the same time, stay within parameters. And I think that, the best musicians out there are people probably that have been doing that from a very early age. They were doing it, like the best soloists out there.
Yeah.
Loved the music and learned the music and did everything that they were supposed to do from a very early age.
What would you say?
Like my fiance, like she goes to Curtis, goes to Juilliard, gets a job in Philly Orchestra.
It's a straight line for some people, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
With brass players, it doesn't seem like as much as I would say.
It's not as much. I mean, you have the Chris Martins and the Ethan Bensdorfs and the Matt Mucky and maybe who else? I mean, there's some of the younger players like Stuart Stevenson got a job pretty young, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these guys that start in these pretty big jobs fairly young. It does happen.
Yeah.
But in the trumpet world, I mean, even Dave Bilger and Jeff Curnow both played in a lot of different orchestras or several different orchestras before they got here. Before they found what I think. Everybody's path's different, and some people learn it earlier and some people learn it later. I mean, look at Mike Myers. I mean, he struggled through a lot of different challenging auditions. I mean, I took probably, I don't know, Mike, tell us how many auditions you took. Like 100 auditions, I don't know. And at age 40 or something like that, he won his first big gig or whatever. I forget what it was. He was in his late 30s or whatever. Yeah. Grant Park, and then I believe
Atlanta, I think, right?
Atlanta, and then LA, and then Seattle or whatever. I mean, Yeah, I mean, he's a perfect example of somebody like stepped up. Like he learned it, he figured it out, and I think there's a lot to learn and to be said for like knowing that people can do that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Another
No, no, no,
tangent.
no. No, you're exactly right, and it's good to look at
Major
it.
respect for anybody that wins a job and is playing and is doing what they love. I mean, people that don't play in orchestras, people that are playing soloistically, playing doing their brass quintet stuff and all that. I mean, there's so many great, amazing musicians and trumpet players doing so many different things. For me, it was just I wanted a paycheck. I don't know. I thought about it a lot when I was in school, like. I just wanted to have security, and so I really put my eggs in the orchestra basket. That was part of the reason, was like to be very. I liked that appealed to me a lot. Um, Even though this business is,
No, right
you know,
now,
you never know.
everything's connected.
But I, it wasn't that the music wasn't appealing to me too. It was just that I wanted to play music. I just loved all types of music, so I just focused on this music, and it seemed to actually that kind of practicing really seemed to work well with me too. I don't have that engineering kind of brain that I think I required to like really learn changes.
Yeah,
I don't have like that photographic memory or that like my ear is pretty good, but putting the two and two together was always like I could kind of play by ear all right, but I didn't really develop that skill as well once I started like playing an orchestra. And then that like working on changes and transposing them in 12 different keys and like doing all that kind of stuff was like it was really hard for my brain. And it is still now like I want to be able to do it still like I'm actually like looking at stuff now like what can I learn like as my first transcription, and maybe somebody out there can recommend. Like I was listening to Big Spider Beck and Louis Armstrong yesterday, and thinking of like which song should I start with?
right.
There's so much out there. But
What would you say changed in your playing when you went and studied with Paul that kind of got you on the path that took?
well, I think Paul, we really focus a lot on articulation. Um, the articulation stuff I did with Chris Gecker in Aspen was great. I did not have a great single tongue when I came to the University of Illinois. Ray Sasaki and I worked a lot on just getting me to have a decent single tongue, and it was a lot about like we would do like the Chikowitz flow study, which you know very well. We'd be like. And we would do that, and that really helped. And I still teach that to my students now because it's like you're doing that. You're trying to like your single tongue does. You don't want it to interrupt the airstream so much that it changes your sound or intonation. And that you want that tongue to be riding the airstream like a surfer on a wave. The that whole kind of thing. That concept of like. Of learning the quick single tongue so that you can double tongue and treble tongue efficiently. But when I started studying with Paul, he really got me to start thinking about the front of the note more. Kind of the Charlie Geyer, playing very short, very pingy notes. And I think because of that, I really did develop a good front to the note, and then working on my K syllable and stuff like that too. And then also, I think with Paul, we worked a lot on. Just had me learning rep. I mean, I was like learning etudes and rep, and I went through I think the top 50 orchestral excerpts or something. That was like my exam to graduate McGill University. Was like I did one recital, which was pretty epic actually. It was a lot. I've been thinking of trying to play that recital now. It's like no way.
What did you play on it?
I played I started with like In the Style of Albania's the Shedron thing. Then I played, I believe, I don't know if I went straight into Tomasi there. And then I played Beim Schlafengang, the one of the four last songs.
Oh yeah,
I forget that's German. Yeesh.
the Strauss. You played Strauss.
Yeah, Strauss. And then Time to Sleep. I guess I think it was the fourth song or whatever. Um, um, and then on the second half, I believe I played Calls and Echoes with um, just lost his name for a second. Steve Van Gulik. And I played the Antheil Sonata.
Wow.
And then I played, I think as a closer, I played the Boats of Caprice because I was doing it on the National Trumpet, no, the ITG competition that summer.
Which you won.
So, huh? Which I won, yeah.
You won.
With the Haydn, yeah.
Okay.
It was Haydn and Caprice. Um, yeah, that summer was an amazing summer. I went to the 1997. I was actually talking with Joyce Davis about this recently because she was president of ITG at that time. I think, or secretary, secretary or president. I think she was president. But she, we were talking about it recently on Facebook and like looking at old pictures and stuff. And that was an amazing experience for me. Like here, like Doc Schitzer saw me play, and like Andrei Yukov was there. Asked me to, like, if I could write out my Haydn cadenza for him.
Wow.
I had a lesson with Tony Ploeg there. I watched Nick Eklund play the B minor Mass. I saw Jim Thompson give a recital. Phil Smith gave a recital. God, there was a Russian soloist recital like thing with the Gothenburg brass band.
It was
It was in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like Chris Sala was there with me. He won the orchestral competition that summer, and I got second in that. And Dean, what's his name? Sorry, forgetting your first name. His last name's Dean.
Alan?
Plays huh? No. Is a player in one of the. No, not Alan. No, he's a player that plays in one of the military bands now. Sorry. Anyway, it was just like it was a great summer. That was an amazing thing. Even that summer, I played in the Wheaton band with Jen Murata and Rick Biaggi was playing that summer. And John Hegstrom soloed with the band that summer. I was taking lessons with Terry Schwartz and John Hegstrom that summer. Yeah, that was a crazy summer. And then so anyway, I was studying with a lot of people all the time. Like I was taking lessons, but I was studying with the things I was doing with Paul was articulation based, working on upper register and soft playing, working on. I mean, I was playing through like Vern Reynolds etudes and top tones and Biche etudes and all the stuff you should be doing as a master's student. Like really hitting the hard repertoire and learning orchestral excerpts because I just didn't know that much. But I was playing a lot of principal trumpet in the orchestra there. It was between me and Steve Van Gulik and oh gosh, I forgot her name now too. Steve's girlfriend at the time, but I'll think of it. Too many names. Need more coffee. Anyway, I played principal trumpet on Mahler 5 for this big McGill Montreal Mahler presentation, and it was that was a big experience for me. It was filmed, and it was all this, like it was a big thing. And it was, just loving playing an orchestra and playing with the Les Violons du Roi because Chuck Lazarus was living in Montreal at the time. Playing a lot with the Montreal Symphony and also playing with a bunch of groups in town. And whenever Chuck couldn't play, or he was like back with Rhythm and Brass, or he was like, I think it was Rhythm or Dallas Brass.
Dallas Brass at the time, I think, right?
Dallas Brass, yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever he would go away out of town, he would kind of like hand me some of his gigs, kind of under the table kind of money, and don't tell. Maybe the Canadian government's gonna be like, come knocking on my door.
I don't think
it was a long time ago.
They're not coming in this country anytime soon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so like playing in that group too, like playing with Bernard Labadie and like doing that. Sam Vero was playing second trumpet. Rest in peace. I think he died a few years ago. Anyway, just so many great players around me all the time. I was lucky. really just really lucky to like learn from all these great players. Steve Angulik's sound was like, he was a Salvation Army guy, and he had that sound, that Phil Smith sound, and I was just like, and playing next to him all the time was like, it was inspirational. Like I need to I need to get that in my sound. I don't know if I ever did, but maybe some of it, maybe something creeped in that was
Oh, he's a
right.
great player. I remember hearing him about the same time win an ITG orchestra competition, like a few years before that or something.
Yeah, yeah, just yeah, really. I mean, really great sound, like, and a really good guy. Just very positive. That Canadian uh, positivity. Um, oh, his girlfriend's name just like was right there. It just escaped me
You'll text it
again.
to me later.
Yeah. Anyway,
But was Houston? Did you win Houston right after Montreal?
oh no, New World.
New World, that's right, and that's right.
Yeah,
How long were you in New World?
4 years. And then talk about being surrounded by great players. I mean, that was what I really feel like, because of the people I was surrounded by and just trying to learn everything that I could learn. When I first started in New World, it was me, Cecil Mathai, and Greg Knutson. I think he actually says Knutson. I'm not sure.
Nixon. Yeah.
Yeah, Knutson. But Greg and I were like, we had a lot of the very similar training, like from people like with similar backgrounds and stuff. So we probably sounded a little bit. We probably played a little bit more together. We played in brass quintet together and stuff.
Yeah.
Cecil was a great player, but a little different, more soloistic kind of sound. Like because I think he came from Texas Christian University or something, and
Arkansas or something like that, wasn't it?
I think it was he's Texan for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Greg
he talked with the drawl. We were always like, "How you doing?" And then like, it was always like, "That's pretty good," like that's pretty good. Like when we finished concerts, like that was pretty good.
Yeah, we played. We were in quintet together at Cincinnati, actually.
Oh, cool.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it was great. First 2 years was those two guys. We learned a lot from each other. Even just interpersonal relationships too, like being in a section like that. At first, it was like I could be a tough guy to sit next to you. I know that. I've had some experiences over the years where people, and I apologize to everybody that like I just it just my if you met my dad, if you met my brother, you know where I'm coming from. But being a twin maybe had something to do with it. You just have to kind of get your word in, and anyway. But I mean, the subs that we had coming down when I was playing there, like Kevin Finnemore was playing with us my first year, and so was Justin Emmerich played with us a lot because he was at Herod at the time. And I remember hearing Justin practice, was like, oh my God, the chops. I mean, he just had chops. It was like getting all, and he was playing like Jolivet, and I was just like, oh, it's funny because I remember sitting next to him in the orchestra, and I always had high expectations. I was kind of like Michael Jordan in that sense, where like I always wanted people to like step up their game and stuff, and I was probably like a hard ass about like being like, I don't know, let's play it this way, let's play it this way, and let's play it this way, and and I apologize for anything that I might have said that was like negative or bad or whatever, but man, the respect that I had for all these players that would come in and play with us, it was like, and Billy was subbing with us a lot. Adam Luffman, I mean, it was like, when Adam played, it was like his triple tonguing was like insanely good. I just remember him being able to triple tongue like really fast and really loud. And I was like, oh, I got to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the things I remember. And Billy, when we played, we were roommates together at Tanglewood. And then he came down to New World after that. And we have some stories that we can't probably talk about here, but you know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
Billy. There's some really good stories. Mark Domalakis and Matt Ward across the hall from us. We have some really good stories, and we'll all talk about that when we're not publicly being recorded. But yeah, really a great summer there too at Tanglewood. But like being around these players, Tanglewood that summer was Eric Berlin and Mike Zonshine and Amy Schindel, and Billy and myself, and Billy came down to New World, and then it was me, Billy, and Greg for a year, and then Carl Sweetie came. I think he plays in either Air Force or Navy band. You know, like it was just like there's all these great players all the time, all these great subs. You know, and then even the the trombone players like Donna Parks and John Tevenet. I remember John and I just got together with principal in Baltimore. Oh, come on, help me out here. Anyway, I'll think of your name too. Aaron Levere. Sorry, sorry, my brain. Stream of consciousness here. But anyway, yeah, being exposed to all these great players around me, just really fantastic. So New World was that experience for me. My first audition at New World was the first professional audition was when I was at New World.
Okay.
You know, it was for the Chicago Symphony, fourth trumpet, and I made the finals. Well, what they call the finals is basically the second round. They called, like, once you got all the prelims, it was called the finals, and they flew you back. You know.
Yeah.
And then I didn't win a job for 4 years. So I made the finals of my first audition, or like the semifinals or whatever, but I didn't win a job until my fourth year at New World. And I was lucky to get a fourth year. I think that year there were like maybe 7 of us that got a fourth year, which was like really unheard of then. But it was like one of those things where Michael Thomas came up to me and said, like, Tony, what's going on? Like, I think I started that fourth year, and he was like, okay, what is it? And my last audition that I took before that year was the job that Jeff Kerno won in Philly. So I was in the finals for that job, and I was in the finals for a couple of Philly jobs, like the 1 year position, and then when Jeff won the job, I was in the final for that. And then, Michael said to me, he said, like, why aren't you winning these jobs? I was in the finals for San Francisco twice. I was in the finals for Chicago twice. It was making finals of other auditions or semis and stuff. And Michael says, "What's going on?" Because I'd get to the finals and I would get really nervous, sure. And then I'd kind of fall apart chop wise, and everything would, But I think in Philly, Dave Bilger said that he didn't like my C trumpet sound. So he said, he actually said to me, "It's like, I think you need to get a different C trumpet." At the time, it was a Bach 229 with a Malone MC1 lead pipe and tuning slide, and there was a kind of a sound. There was something about the sound that wasn't really working for me, because my sound on my other horns was really good, but it wasn't. But there was something about the C trumpet sound that wasn't as focused or not as brilliant or something, and so I told Michael. I said, "Michael, Dave says I need a new C trumpet." Or I said, I need to replace my C trumpet. He said, well, if I buy you a C trumpet, will you win a job?
Wow.
And I was like, I'll do my best. At the time I was preparing for the Houston audition and the Marine Band audition. And so I get this trumpet. I bought a 25H229 Bach right off the shelf at Dulin. And 3 weeks later, I won Houston. So I know. It was like new horn, I still had some issues at the end of the audition in Houston. Like, it wasn't like super strong like I wanted to be, but I I had one of those days that was like, yeah, this feels right, Yeah. And it was like there's just one of those things. Both auditions that I won, the big ones, Houston, and even the ones like LA, I was a finalist in LA twice. And the second time when Chris Still won, I walked off that stage going, yeah, like that was what, that was pretty good. Like, I felt like I just won that job. And then they come back and say, Chris Still won the job. I was like, damn. But you couldn't wish for a better guy to beat you in an audition. Like if somebody's going to beat you, you want it to be Chris Still. I mean, like, yeah. It's like, well, of course, duh, or like like when I didn't win the national trumpet competition, Balazs Nemish won, and it was like, well, duh, the guy's amazing. Like who wouldn't want to take second to that person? Anyway, but it was like that. It was like every audition that I did really well, and I walked off the stage and went, yeah, that's it. With Philly, it was a little bit like I left a little bit of the door open because I didn't play my best in the final. So I was like, I think I did really well, but I kind of left the door open because I didn't really nail a couple of the excerpts at the end. But, huh? But it worked out.
It worked out.
Yeah.
Well, talk about your preparation for those 2 auditions. What do you think what was it in your preparation that maybe had progressed over the years that got you to that point?
Honestly, I was taking auditions, like I was doing a lot of associate principal auditions. And I think that I didn't really know at the time that maybe I was more geared towards playing second trumpet, or playing, more section trumpet kind of thing. The first audition I took was at fourth trumpet in Chicago, and the list was very good for me. Like there wasn't anything on it that, like, there wasn't like the Brandenburg, or there wasn't like Alpine Symphony or something like that, or that I would have to like, or like Concerto for Orchestra, where I'd have to like, really be there at the end of the audition with high chops. I always seemed to like a little bit peter out towards the end of some of those really the principal auditions, or like those kind of things. I'm more efficient now than I was then, although I still don't really want that kind of pressure. And that comes back to my respect for all principal trumpet players out there. It's like, yeah, can I play the excerpts? Yes, but can I do the job? I don't think so. I don't. It's not my mentality. It's not my physicality either, I don't think. But people say you can learn, but I decided to give that up a long time ago. I feel like the lists were very good for me. The list for Houston, the list for Philly, the lists that auditions that I did really well in. There was something about the list that really spoke with me a little bit more, that like allowed me to shine more. That didn't get me outside of my comfort level that much. I mean, there were excerpts in every audition that were hard, but some of the excerpts were a lot easier for me. Maybe because my skill set was geared more towards that. So playing low and soft, playing, like playing excerpts that you had to bring personality, but also play with really good fundamentals, that kind of thing. I think Houston was the big thing for me. I think was that my sound and stuff matched Jim Wilt better, in some ways, and I think they hired me for that reason, because they had Bob and John DeWitt and Bob Walp were playing, and then me and Jim would play together a lot. And I remember that when I first got there, it was great. And I cried the day that Jim won the job in LA and left, because it was like, I loved playing with him. Who wouldn't? It's like he's, Mr. Clean. It was like playing with Bilger. It's like it's so solid all the time that it's like, it's really easy to just lay it down. I didn't get as tired playing. I didn't have to change my approach that much. Like playing with John DeWitt was a completely opposite thing for me. I had to really change the way I played to match him, or to try to match him. I couldn't really match him because he just was an ox. It was a different school and a different type of playing that I didn't really study. I never got that old school Chicago, I heard Bud do it, but he was 80 years old when I was hearing him do it, I was more interested in sounding like Mark Ridenour at the time, or John Hagstrom, because they were doing kind of like what was winning gigs at the time,
It makes sense.
But, yeah. So the skills of like doing what John could do, like that, I had to learn that. I had to learn some of that on the job. I learned more of that from Mark Hughes, because Mark was very nurturing and very helpful to get me through like some of the chop funk that I was having, trying to keep up with that kind of sound.
Yeah.
But Mark was very nurturing that way, and very helpful to get me to like, okay, this is what you need to do. Maybe this is equipment change you can do. This is like the air thing you can do, like working through that. And then working with Mike Sachs and working with John Hagstrom also helped me to like figure that out too. But anyway, where was I going with that?
Oh, when did Mark come in on the job when you were second, when you were in Houston?
Oh yeah, it was the auditions. So yeah, anyway, auditions for me was like preparing for those auditions was more about like getting my fundamentals in really good shape, and being ready for the when the auditions come up to not like all of a sudden have to learn excerpts just because there's an audition. Like I was always touching the hard excerpts. Even now, I still touch the hard excerpts. I still play them, and my excerpt videos are part of that. Like I want to keep those skills, even though I don't need them as much anymore. But I want to be able to teach them still. But I never let myself get out of audition shape, if you will. Even when I was playing in Houston, I always looked at every week's concert as an audition. Like I have to learn this piece as well as I need to play it in an audition. And I know some people don't do that, but I practiced like that. I was like, if I was playing a Beethoven symphony, I was sometimes running the symphony down, to my fault. I was doing that almost too much practicing sometimes when I had big stuff to do. But I would try to be as prepared as I needed to be for auditions for performances. So that's kind of the way I kind of stayed in audition shape over the 11 years I was in Houston, even though I only took like 6 auditions those 11 years, but maybe 5, I don't know, something like that. But playing with so many different great principal trumpet players in Houston and New World probably helped me have those skills of being able to play second trumpet well. Not to mention, over the years, I'd hear people play and just want to sound like them.
Right.
I didn't say, this is the way I want to sound. I want to sound like this person. I want to sound like this person. I used to do this thing where I'd like play through the Arbin's rhythmic studies. Right? And I would say, I'm going to play it like Phil Smith. Now I'm going to play it like Maurice Andre. Now I'm going to play it like Bud Herseth. Now I'm going to play it like Wynton Marsalis. And I remember doing that as a, I don't know, it was like I forget who was doing it with in a practice room at Aspen. And they were like, yeah, they would call it out. I think maybe it was Boo Bolts. I forget who it was, but they would like say, play it like this, play it like that. Maybe, I don't forget who it was. But if you remember, tell me. If somebody watches this.
But that's a really great skill, right? Because it's making you tap into your imagination so much harder than just playing what's on the page.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, and like, okay, I want to sound like Tina, or I want to sound like Ole Edvard Ensensen, like when you're working on the same music that they play, or when you're playing your fundamentals, like goes back to that, right? Like when you're working on your fundamentals, play that like the style of Phil Smith playing Mahler, or play that like the style of Mark Gould playing Wagner, or nowadays you get so many other players too, like, or work on your high scales, like with the sound of, I don't know, Wayne Bergeron, like you try to get that burn in your sound, or get that clarity, or that brilliant, like just to use that as imagination when you're doing stuff, so you're not just playing, right? You're actually thinking, like I want to play Strauss. I'm going to play it like I'm playing, like a Strauss aria, or a I don't know, like a Wagner overture or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Well, like when I'm playing, like when you're playing your Chigwitz flow studies, that you're thinking of playing a Bruckner symphony, it's all that. It always, those skills, I think the second trumpet skills, I think, came from like wanting to imitate people.
Yeah, exactly. And being able to have that recall, so if a conductor says something, you can immediately adjust, or the principal trumpet says something, you can adjust without having to.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's one of the hardest things playing second, is that when you're matching the first, but the conductor wants you to do something different. You have to kind of interpret what the conductor said for the first player, and then try to anticipate how the first player is going to interpret what they said.
Yeah.
Like Yannick says, well, I want you to play this like it's coming out of blah blah blah, whatever thing he says, and then I have to be like, well, how is Dave going to interpret that? Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't, but or sometimes I forget, but like you have to kind of get into their head a little bit.
Right.
Very me.
Well,
Yeah.
talk about that. Talk about some of the things people don't really get about maybe playing second trumpet, especially if they're students, because we're students. We have these ideas about certain icons, and we try to imitate that. But when you're playing second trumpet, there's a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, I always say like the first rehearsal for me is always a little bit of a gimme playing second trumpet because as much as you might know the player you're playing, like playing with Mark Hughes and playing with Dave Bilger, like I play with them so much that I can anticipate things more. But when I'm playing with new players, sometimes I might not know. Or like with Jeff, I didn't play with him as much in the beginning, so like I didn't know how he was going to play Beethoven, or I didn't know how he was going to play, like whatever piece we were playing on. Like Jeff's been playing a lot more the last couple of years because Dave's been out a lot more. So like playing certain composers with him now, it's like okay, I have to kind of anticipate something it's like a no man's land. I don't really know what he's going to do, so I have to try to adjust a little more quickly, or like try to bridge the gap between different styles of like playing like Dave or playing like Jeff. Like it's very different. It was the same way in Houston when I was playing with Mark Hughes or playing with John DeWitt. It was like very different skills that I had to bring in. And as a young player, I think what you just need to remember is that every time you play with somebody, if you're playing second, to match them no matter how good or bad it is, or no matter how wrong you think it is. Just match them. Build that skill. Learn to like play really sharp from the center. To that and know that your chops are gonna feel like doo doo when you're done. But you're gonna learn something about it. Like what I learned about playing intonation wise was like you gotta center a note and tune from there. So that you don't get so whacked out with your scale and with your intonation when you're done with the performance. And the mistake I made when I first started playing in Houston was like just chasing John. He was playing a Calat C trumpet and I'm playing a Bach, and it was like and he was it was towards the end of his principal trumpet career. He moved down to associate I believe my second year when Charlie Butler came in and played with us. But Jim Will left,
Yeah.
But John moved down, and then I was playing, So anyway, I was playing with John when I think that maybe he was like not as as consistent as maybe like Jim Wilt or Mark Hughes or like Dave Bilger or whatever. But he was an ox, so he could play. I mean, like learning to do that, trying to do that, was killing me because I I was moving around a lot. I was like really playing and I couldn't play that loud. So I really made a lot of mistakes, but over the years, I kind of figured out a little bit more about that. I've never been a big banger trumpet player. So I still have to work at that, but matching anybody you're sitting next to, if you have a really good ear, it can really hurt your face because if you're constantly like chasing somebody around the horn, you want it to sound perfectly in tune, or you want it to sound, you want to match. It can be damaging to your own playing. So that's why I found that what I had to do after playing second trumpet, I learned these things where like I had to warm down in a different way. I had to find my center again. Sometimes that means playing really agile or playing even into the upper register a little bit more with flexibilities. Finding like violins or something, like playing finding that center again. And I think that over the years, you can ask a lot of my colleagues that they probably got sick of hearing me doing my cool down after concerts, but that's what gets me back into my own sound.
Yeah.
Because playing second all the time, you want to shadow the person you're playing with, or as I think like I saw an interview with Neil Bernstein or even Hugo last week, we're talking about you kind of have to mirror or shadow the player, and you have to be within their sound, and you also have to support their sound sometimes, or sometimes you have to back off so you don't compete with the sound. Sometimes you have to articulate in a different way than they're articulating to make the articulation sound a certain way. Sometimes you have to articulate exactly the same way. You have to kind of go with your instincts on that and what sounds good in the moment. And that's why I was going to say my first rehearsal is always a gimme.
Yeah.
It's like I have to see what the conductor's going to do, but I also have to like decide what the section and what my principal's going to do. So like an interpretation of that. So I give myself a little bit of leeway to kind of like let it build in. Sometimes we only have one rehearsal, and in which case I just have to kind of go with my instincts.
Right.
But I allow myself a little bit of leeway in that first rehearsal to like kind of get acclimated to the piece and to what we have to play. So but it's a skill you can learn.
Yeah.
Playing a lot of duets with people, playing with other instrumentalists, and trying to match what they do. Sitting next to players that you might not want to sound like, but I think one of the things that really helped me a lot in school was to always hear the good things in people playing. Somebody might be complaining about how bad somebody sounds and blah, 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 and this and this and this and this and this. And it's hard to turn that off because we all want to be like, yeah, critical, and be like, I'm better than that. But really the best thing you can do is to sorry, Rolando just doing. The best thing to do is to really hear the best things in people playing, and then take those things and put them in your playing, and be like, or I hear that, I want to be able to do that, like maybe they don't play as in tune, or maybe they don't have a great articulation, but their sound is amazing, or maybe they have really great high chops, but their low register sucks. Well, listen to that up register sound and use that, not what other things you hear. And I have to remind myself that all the time.
Yeah, because that's such an important thing. It's we know so many people get so dark and negative on stuff, and
it's easy to. I do it too, and I have to remind myself not to go down that road. It's when you have people around you saying things too, it's like it's hard not to join in with that or be that. And I think part of this reset that we're all doing right now, hopefully, will help get back into that positive. Like, okay, I want to go back and play again, and I don't care. Like people are going to do things and approach things in a different way. And that's kind of what makes it beautiful in the orchestra, because sometimes not a homogeneous sounding orchestra sometimes sounds boring. Like Mark Gould says, like that sometimes you just need those extra different sounds that bring that energy. And I got to remind myself of that. I really do. It's, I've had some interpersonal relationship problems that would be fixed by not letting myself go down that road. So we're all learning still,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess I had two more questions. What is your daily routine like right now? Like talk us through, like, what are you practicing and what's sort of your normal, there we go.
Let's go. I'm keeping my practice log.
Let's start
I don't keep, huh?
Let's start with March.
Let's get back to March. Yeah, it's funny because I do keep my practice log here now too, and I've been better about it lately. I've been doing like 2 or 3 practice sessions a day. My first practice session is always fundamentals, and it changes every day. And I got my horns here.
Down there.
Yeah, I got my tools. So I just pulled that picture out just for you.
Yeah, and actually, before we get into everything you practice, show people that picture, because you showed me that before. I think it's very cool.
Well, yeah, I have a 3 picture frames on the wall over there, and this is one of my favorites because it has some of the great older players. There's me, Billy, and Voisin, and Wobach, Jeff Wobach. I think that's how you say his last name. You got Doc Severinsen, who I got the opportunity to see many times and play with, which was great. And hopefully I'll get to play with or see Doc again soon. There's me and Bud. But that was the summer before I studied with him at Music Academy in the West. So
what do you write? Stay. What does he write on there?
Stay lucky.
Stay lucky. Okay.
He told people, like he would say, even in Music Academy, is like, you guys are so lucky that you're starting your career. He says, I wish I could start my career again. He just loved it that much, that he wishes he could have started over. And this is like when he's 82 or something, and he's like, or maybe 80, but like he wanted to play again. That year was his 50th anniversary concert, like his 50th.
Yeah. I went to that concert. Were you?
Yeah, that was me at that concert, backstage with him and the champagne. I think Doc Sammerson played with him that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did that Side Partners or whatever. What is that?
Yeah, they did and that was the thing where like they started playing excerpts back and forth or trading fours, and and Bud played Scriabin, and Doc's like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. But like it was that, and then that's Scatala at that 97. I forgot about that. In 97 at the ITG conference, Gatala and I had breakfast together 2 or 3 times because we're staying in the same hotel, and it was me, Gatala, and Fred Mills. My first breakfast there, my luggage was lost because there was a British Airways strike, and so I didn't have. I don't know how I did this, but I put my mouthpieces in my luggage, and it's the stupidest thing ever. Like I separated my trumpets and my mouthpieces. I have no idea why. And this was even before 9/11, so it was like, there's no reason why I should have done that. Anyway, but I got to have breakfast with Fred Mills and Martin Gatala like for a couple of days straight, and Gatala was like talking about cooking and all these things, and I didn't even know him that well. Like I wish I did. I wish I knew who I was talking to at the time. I knew Fred Mills more because I saw the Canadian Brass play, but I didn't even know. Like I was pretty dumb to the history of Armando Gatala, except that his name was on a lot of my music, or that he was an editor for a lot of things, or that that he was the first person to record the Hummel or whatever. But I don't know if that's. I think he was.
Yeah, no, that's true.
That's right. So like I mean, and I listened to that recording, like from Ray Sasaki. Like Ray was a big Armando Gatala fan. So who wasn't? I mean, like he's such a personality.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was a really sweet heart of a guy, and he was like kind of recruiting me to come to Rice and do an artist diploma and stuff, and yeah, it was crazy. But anyway, I love seeing those guys on my wall. I've got another thing with Ray Sasaki and Charlie Geyer and Tony Plogue and Dave Bilger and Paul Merkello, and Mark Hughes is over here. Wayne Bergeron's over here. So is Maurice Murphy, because I studied with Maurice at Pacific Music Festival.
What was that? What was Maurice Murphy like in a lesson?
Oh, amazing! I mean, he would play we were doing Petrushka, and he played the ending. I was like playing on a piccolo trumpet, and it was like, and he picks up his B flat trumpet, puts a mute in, and plays the ending, and it sounds like a piccolo. It's like he was able to get that sound, even though it was amazing. He played a recital and played some cornet things, and I remember him like picking out his lead mouthpiece for the end of the cornet solo. Like it was great. He was just like, I don't remember like that much about his teaching as much as like just listening to him play.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, he was a great personality. I've got a picture of us like having sake and like, him having Japanese food at this crazy bar, Kenny's. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, I love having these pictures. I've got pictures of me and Dave Elton and from that thing, and some conductors that I've worked with, and there's a Houston Symphony Brass Quintet and stuff. So I have things around here that like remind me. The picture in the back that you see is like the New World Symphony audition photo, the audition poster that I'm actually on it on the poster with Michael Tilson Thomas, and really Michael Tilson Thomas was such a huge. I mean. Yeah, God bless him. He's such a great influence on classical music.
What did he say when you won the Houston audition on the trumpet that he bought you?
I mean, I think New World kind of bought it. They had this thing, but like he got me the trumpet somehow. But I say that Michael bought it for me because he's the one that said, "Get him a new trumpet." Yeah. So I don't remember exactly, but he was very happy for me. Um, I think he was a little bit less happy that I was going to Houston because he wanted to see me go, someplace better, like, or someplace different. I don't know if he didn't like the Houston Symphony or what,
Yeah,
but I think he wanted to see me, like, go to one of the top five or something.
yeah.
But I was just excited. I didn't know anything about Houston at the time. I didn't know the history of that orchestra. I had no idea that so many great players like Mundy and like Charlie Geyer and I mean Mike Sachs and so many great players play there. I think Barbara played there too, Barbara Butler, and
Chickowitz
I
played
mean,
there for a year.
huh?
Chickowitz played there for a year.
Oh yeah, Chikowitz played there, right? I mean, a lot of young players play there. Like a lot of
Really
people
good.
young and
Yeah.
young in their careers play there, and I didn't know anything about it. Like I was just like going to Texas. The only thing I knew was that, like what I saw from Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Everybody knows that quote.
That's right. That's right. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I got you off, but we were talking about your warm up and your practice and
Oh
what
yeah.
you're doing right now. Sorry. I should
Yeah. So I'm doing like I'm still doing my warm up routine. I'm still doing like um, I'm a big sax routine guy. Like I started like in school like doing a lot of stamp, doing Chikowitz stamp. With Ray Sasaki we did a lot of stamp, and I did a lot of Clark, irons,
Mhm.
um, and then now that's more irons and violin, some Colin, doing um, Gecker articulation studies and stuff like that. I've based my routine now a little bit on the structure of Mike Sachs's routine,
Yeah.
because I worked with Mike Sachs a lot at New World. He would be there for like a week, and we would do the warm up together every day. And I really wasn't doing it right with him there. I was kind of like really pushing the sound too much and like pushing the air too much, and it wasn't until I started getting more efficient with my playing where the routine really started working for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been doing that still. Like every day, every day I'll come up with something different. Like today I did buzzing, and I buzzed and then played, where I don't usually do that. I usually buzz and then I go straight from buzzing to playing. But this time I buzzed, played, buzzed, played, buzzed, played. I was doing something like I used to do with stamp. I did some flexibilities up to double G, and some scales. And I created a new scale routine this morning that I actually recorded. some triplets that I was like, oh, I should do these some more because it was pretty weak this morning. So I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
gotta add that to my routine. I'm doing some arpeggios and stuff. Stamp 3B, with double ups. I have this
Yeah.
double up drill that all my students know. Chase, you probably know what I'm talking about. Um, um, yeah, and then at the end of my routine, I like to play some piccolo and maybe I'll pick up one of the other horns. Like so, I'll do B flat and C throughout the warm up, and then I'll pick up maybe a rotary or my cornet and play a couple things. Lately, I've been adding a couple etudes. Like if I want to do articulation instead of doing my articulation things in the sax, I'll play like I've been starting to get back into like the Clark characteristic studies,
Mhm.
and also hitting the Vern Reynolds. So Vern Reynolds etudes.
Yeah.
Um, like trying to challenge myself to do some stuff that I haven't done in a while. Because it doesn't matter if I mess up my face right now. I'll have some time to recover.
There's definitely time to stretch the boundaries out with some of that stuff.
And that's what I've been doing in my warm up routine lately. I've been warming up to like trying to get up to high A's and stuff, like trying to to build my range. Billy Hunter's given me a little bit of a challenge to get up to a double C at some point in time this summer. Um,
Is Billy doing
I'm
the
gonna,
double? Is Billy
huh?
is Billy playing a
Oh
double?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He'd kill me if I played the video for you, but yeah, he sent me a video of him. Yeah, he's got it. Yeah, so I've been just like kind of trying to expand my abilities lately.
Yeah.
My second and third practice sessions are some repertoire like the solo rep that I haven't played. I'm working on a few different solo pieces. I even got together with Ray Sasaki last week and played through a couple things for him. Brought me right back to my undergrad. Like open my mind a little bit more, be a little bit more expressive, try to like open like my world to non-orchestral like confines, like trying to like be a little bit more free with rhythm and a little bit more free with style.
Could you
So
talk just because like a lot of guys that are maybe younger than us, I never thought I would say that phrase, might not know as much about Ray Sasaki. Could you talk about him a little bit? Because he's such a sweet guy and really a beloved person.
Yeah, amazingly positive person. I don't know if that comes from like his Japanese upbringing or what, but like he is super positive, very artistic, very open minded. Um, he played in St. Louis Brass Quintet. He played in this group called the Tone Road Ramblers that like did like very aleatoric. Like the music is just a bunch of scribbles. Like I mean, it all has meaning, but
Yeah.
the way you look at it is like, well, what do I do with that? Very improvisational. Amazing bebop player. Ray Sasaki's. I don't. I'm sure there's many people that have done many transcriptions, but like his like cabinets full of transcriptions and his wall at home of his LPs is just insane. He had pretty much everything. I'm sure he still has all that. But we used to go to his house. We used to have milk and cookies on Wednesday nights at his place, and we would just sit and listen. And we would just like he had a great like turntable stereo system, and we would just sit there and listen to bebop and listen to like his favorite recordings. Less like listening to like Eric Dolphy and like Booker Little or like Freddie Hubbard and Lee Morgan, Kenny Dorham, Clifford Miles. I think we listened to more Kenny Dorham, Freddie Hubbard, and like Eric,
Blue Mitchell or something like that.
yeah, Blue Mitchell, I guess maybe a little bit. I don't remember listening to that much of Blue Mitchell, but definitely Kenny Dorham, definitely Lee Morgan, and I still just love listening to those Art Blakey albums now. Like one of my go-to albums is that Caravan, Freddie Hubbard. Just hearing some of the, I mean, I don't know. There was just something about that era that is like just so inspirational. But hanging out with Ray was like, milk and cookies.
Yeah.
It was cool. It just opened your mind a little bit to like the possibilities and to like hearing music in a different way.
Yeah.
We didn't listen to like orchestral. We didn't like listen to orchestral recordings or anything like that. I got that from other people, but we listened to solo stuff and we listened to really great jazz. The Ray could play these pieces that are just there was a school like Crystal Records like school, like what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like there's like Tony Plogue and Tom Stevens and all these guys playing this really hard contemporary music, and he was one of those guys that could just do that really out there stuff and extended techniques and things like that. I think that was kind of started. They kind of started a whole generation of players in that way. But like, there's some really cool experimental music that he was doing, and the brass quintet stuff. Hearing him play brass quintet and the solo stuff. Yeah, Ray could do it all. He could play an orchestra too. Like hearing him play in the orchestras in Champaign-Urbana was like, oh yeah, he's got it too. He didn't like doing it as much. I don't think. So. And then he would tell me to go study with orchestral players. He said, this isn't what I do. Go study with Mike Ewald, or go study with John Hagstrom, or go play for Paul Merkello, Yeah. So he was great that way. He was like, take lessons with everybody. I took lessons with Bobby Shu. I took lessons with, Tom Wordle, Shab Manure. I took lessons with so many different people. My list of...
Yeah, right. Of course.
Like, it's crazy. It's probably more than... Well, let's not get into that. But yeah, I mean, I think all those experiences, all those like little bits of information really kind of piled up.
Yeah.
But Ray really helped encourage me to do that, to be curious and ask as many people questions as I could.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and one of the questions I always like to ask people before I close anything up is like, because listening is just such a huge component, and it's definitely the thing that's I think glossed over more than anything in our development a lot of times, right? Or it can be. What would be like if you had 5 recordings to tell yourself?
You asked so many people this question.
I know. I always do. It's fascinating. It's a great question. Because all right, but I'm going to change it though. What recordings would you tell 11th grade Tony Prisk to listen to? That eliminates later things that came out later, so it makes it
Oh,
easy.
if I had to go back and
If you had to go
actually,
back, if you were like on a time machine, like with Doc and Michael J. Fox, and like you said, hey,
and I could only listen to the recordings that were made back in like 1989,
any
88, 89.
anything before then, yeah, like you were like, okay,
Yeah, before that, yeah.
listen, kid, I'm Calvin Klein, and here's five recordings.
Okay, well, anything Maurice Andre. I'd
Yeah.
never heard of, I didn't hear of Maurice Andre until college. And if I would have known that he recorded like all those French concerti and like, because you know, you hear like a lot of the piccolo stuff, but like to hear him play the Tomasi or hear him play like Jolivet and stuff, or Shane, you know, like hearing that stuff is like, oh, like he was doing it way before anybody else is doing it. You know, like he was really incredible playing. Actually, hearing him play the Tomasi when he was a student. Have you heard that recording?
No.
Or is it Tomasi? It was Tomasi, or I think, yeah, it's Tomasi. There's a recording of him playing like in a competition or something like that. Look it up. It's pretty amazing. Although it's not like the refined Maurice Andre of the recordings, it's like still amazing to hear him play as like maybe like a 20-year-old or maybe even younger.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, anything Maurice Andre. I wish I would have listened to more Wynton Marsalis. Like I wish I would have like known more of his like earlier stuff. I knew Standard Time volumes, and I knew. I don't even know if I knew the Carnival album until I went to college, which I wish I would. If I would have listened to that album before I went to college, maybe I would have been an architect. Like I have to do that.
That was an amazing era, though, that we came up in, because if that stuff was out there, Wynton was doing that crazy stuff.
The fact that he was doing both styles so well.
Yeah.
I mean, so there was that. Maybe hearing more of that bebop. I didn't. Yeah, I wish I would have heard or knew what I was listening to when it comes to like like the Blue Note stuff. I wish I would have listened to more of that. I was listening at the time to like Doc Severinsen, which was great. And I wanted to be. I even had a blue suit that looked like Doc Severinsen. I had this crazy tie, and I wanted to be Doc. I wanted to go up there and play solos in front of the band. That and like Bill Chase. Like I was like, get it on. Like I did. I'm not a huge fan of the whole Bill Chase thing, but Doc Severinsen, I was like, yes. Maynard Ferguson, yes. Like I saw the Big Bop Nouveau band play.
I heard that, yeah. Oh, but I want to show you this. I think I can put it on the thing here. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, I remember. I saw that picture. Yeah.
That's us in Jacksonville. But I said, can I take a picture, but with one of your coats? He said, whatever you want.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I really did want to do that. I wanted to like headline a band or something, but that was like a dream. Like I remember hearing Doc Severinsen live. I think it was the second time I heard him, and I got together with like the girl I was dating at the time. We went to a practice room, and I've still got this picture of me like, bending back and playing, like because I was playing at the time. I was like doing a solo with the big band at U of I, and I was like doing Lush Life, and I was like playing the solo like that was Doc Severinsen. Like it was that was still a pipe dream at that point. Like oh yeah, this is what I want to do. Or be like try to like play lead trumpet like Roger Ingram, or which I never got those notes. So, but yeah, I guess the Doc Severinsen, which I was listening to, thank goodness.
Yeah.
If it came to like orchestral stuff, like all I had was I had two tapes. I had a recording of the London, I think it was London Symphony or London Philharmonic, I don't remember which one, of the Planets, because I liked the Planets. Like, I remember hearing the Planets once, I was like, I like that piece. And I had the Schulte Mahler 5, the live recording in Japan, the one with Schulte standing on the water, basically, like
standing on the water, like yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like at the end of the pier, right?
Yeah.
So I had those two tapes, right alongside all of my hairband stuff. I had piles. I mean, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith. My first big concert that I went to was Aerosmith. Um, uh, Poison, Whitesnake. All those. That's what I fell asleep to every night. Listening to the Final Countdown. Europe. um, Metallica. I got Metallica 1, and
Nice.
like in the Sandman. But yeah, I guess if I had to go back, like listening to hearing more Schulte, Chicago, or hearing some more New York Philharmonic back then, I
Yeah.
didn't know about those Bernstein recordings with with like the Copeland, and well, that didn't happen yet, but like listening to some of that stuff with Phil Smith. I mean, it's like
Yeah. The
I just didn't know
Tchaikovsky.
about it when I was in high school.
Yeah. Those are
So
amazing.
yeah, I wish if I could go back, I would hear more of that. But I had great band directors. They were giving me tapes of stuff that I didn't even know what I was listening to. I have like a Philadelphia Orchestra recording of like Prokofiev stuff that I didn't even know what it was. It was like the Scythian Suites, or like I don't even know how to say it. Never played the piece, but it's like crazy hard. And I heard it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But like they would hand me stuff that I didn't even know what I was listening to sometimes. Like they would just put it on tape and say, "Here, listen to this." Like,
Wow.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
wow.
you had really great band directors then. If you
Oh, and that's what's really important. I feel like that's one of those things. Like when I teach music ed majors, like when I do my classes and stuff, I want them to like know that like this is you're going to inspire somebody someday. Somebody's going to be like you're going to tell them to listen to something. They're going to listen. They're going to want more. And that's really important. I think that if you treat music ed students like performance majors and make sure that they have all that same information, so that when they go and teach their kids, they can be like, um, like, yeah, this is what Tony told me to listen to, and you should check it out. Like, yeah,
yeah,
that's important,
that stuff gets passed down. I mean, there's no question. It's so important. And
right?
yeah,
Yeah, having a great band director was huge for me. So, um,
yeah,
yeah, I wish I could have told him more how important he was to me. It was like, and that's why I tell Steve Hoffman if he's watching. I tell Greg Cunningham if he's watching, and like you guys kept me in it. Like Steve Hoffman got me to the University of Illinois. He's like, you got to go there. Don't go to this other school. Go there. Go there. You
wow,
know, and so anyway, that's so those. The other recording would be the Gabrielli. You know,
the
the
old one.
the old one.
Yeah, because the new one's obviously
It's
not.
great too. It's great, but it wasn't available then.
It wasn't available.
But
Exactly.
the old one, I mean, it influenced pretty much every trumpet player you can think of that's older than us.
Yeah,
Just to hear those guys play with their sounds, not in the orchestra. To
yeah,
hear that same kind of orchestral sound, but it may not be what Gabrielli should be, but
but
it's amazing.
but
Like,
it still does us all a lot of good. I mean, I still listen to
yeah,
it very often.
yeah, I mean, it's inspirational to hear people play with that articulation and that core and that brilliance of the sound, and just the intonation and the clarity. It's just everything about it. And it's like yeah, I want to sound like that. I want to sound like that. I want to sound like that and that.
Yeah,
Stereo.
listen
It
to it and you're like, okay, this helps.
does.
I guess. And the last thing I want to ask is, some people might have seen if they go back and watch this interview, because now I think there's 3 people watching this. We can get into whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, right.
But was
Lose
how
my
you
voice.
how you set up the proposal for your fiance?
Oh boy, yeah, that was quite a thing. Uh, I have
And
to
you
give
could play
credit.
after that too, right?
I did, and I was playing first trumpet after that, which is something I don't do very often. Um, it was just Mozart, so it was all right.
Yeah.
But um, we were talking about doing these announcements. The orchestra was asking us to do these be pre-concert announcements, and people were doing them, recording them, and who was it? It was Juliet Kang and Jeff Lang asked me, "It's like, are you doing one?" And I said, no, I didn't think about it. And I think I told them that I was shopping for a ring, and they were like, oh, like I think Lang said, hey, maybe you could do it. I forget which one of them said maybe they put it in my ear, my mind that I should, oh, maybe I can propose on stage on Valentine's Day. And that was like in the beginning of January or something, maybe a little, something like that. It was in January, and so it wasn't much time. Although I had already been ring shopping and already been like trying to figure out what to get, but now it was like, okay, fast forward, I need to get a ring. I need to record this thing because I got the management on board. They were like, yeah, let's do it. Like this is gonna be great. Because they're like social media. Like this is great. Like Valentine's Day, propose in a concert. What? Problem came is that Julia got that week off. It's her birthday weekend, like she got the week off, and this was after I had already set everything up, and I was like, or at least she had the week off, but she didn't tell me, or I didn't put two and two together that was the week, so I had to like I went like trying to get somebody to switch with her and do all this kind of stuff. And finally, we just had the personnel manager send her a message saying there's going to be a photograph on stage before this concert, so you have to come back for it. Blah blah blah. If you want to be a part of this photo, and so I got her to come. I got her to come for that concert. She didn't even play the concert. She just like got proposed to and walked off stage, and everybody was waiting for her backstage with a cake and stuff like that. So it was like
Nice. So
she got to just relax, but I had to play the whole first half of the concert. So luckily I didn't have to play the second half, but I played the first half. And I just remember like I'm sitting on stage. Of course I'm more nervous about going up and doing this thing. Like I'm going to trip on myself, or I'm going to I don't know what I'm going to do,
Yeah.
And I I'm sitting back there, and my announcement comes on that I recorded, and she didn't know how I was going to do it, but the announcement comes on and she hears, Julia Lee, will you stand up? And then I start walking towards the front of the stage, and I get down on a knee and I propose to her, and and she's like, hey, and the crowd. The amazing thing was, as soon as I got on my knee, the crowd just went. It was a great feeling. It was really cool, and I couldn't even hear myself when I said, "Will you marry me?" I couldn't, And of course she's like shaking, and I'm like, "Oh, don't drop the ring," But yeah, it was pretty cool. I'm glad that other people got to enjoy it too. So.
Oh, that was well done. Was it on the news and the papers? And
it was on. Yeah, it was like it was all over the place. It was pretty cool. I mean, I was getting calls and congratulations from people that I haven't heard from for years, and yeah, it was really cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And you could find it somewhere.
I know. Well, actually, and I think one of the recordings we were talking about earlier, Guillermo just posted in this chat, which I can't really send, but maybe he'll send it to you later.
I can see it.
Can you see it?
Well, never mind. Let's get rid of that.
Yeah.
The ad. Yes. Yes, that recording. That's the recording. Yeah, it's the recording of Maurice Andre playing the Tomasi as a younger in 1955. So you got to be pretty young back then, right? I was
and we'll find your proposal on YouTube as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, you'll find that for sure. Yes, it's on the it's like one of the top videos on the Philadelphia Orchestra page. So
nice.
But
well, man, I know you and I could easily hang.
I know we've done this before. We have talked for hours and hours and hours.
But this is the first time in front of people, so
I've been behaving myself.
Oh man, you're doing great. You're doing great. I think I got most inside jokes, and I just kind of let them.
That's good. Thank you for that.
Yeah. When I interviewed Sax, I did an inside joke with him, and he caught it and he ran with it for just a little bit, and nobody
shut it down.
And nobody knew anything about what we had just done. So
right, that's awesome. You gotta love that. Yeah. No, it's really great talking with you and stuff. And I think it's great what you're doing. I think it's been great watching other people's videos, watching other people speak. It's always, I think, great to see the inside of like how people got to where they got and what's important to them now.
'Cause everybody's way, everybody's paths are
You know,
so
I
different.
wrote down so many things that I wanted to talk about with you here, and
Well, you can talk about them.
I didn't,
No, I
and I
mean,
didn't even like, like who are your second? Because I was expecting like who are your second trumpet influences and blah 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 blah. Like, and I have, I was trying to put it because I watch some people speak at these interviews, and they're so well spoken, and like,
oh, who would they be then? That's fair.
and I was like, okay, well, I got to be prepared, and we didn't get to have the stuff I wrote down, which is.
Tell me some of it. Maybe somebody will watch this.
Oh no, I just wanted to give credit to like like the people that really helped me, that gave me influenced, like when I would hear Channing Philbrook play second trumpet in Grant Park, I was like, oh, that's how you play. I was playing in Houston, and I was still was green to playing second trumpet, and hearing him play and match Dave Gordon and stuff was like, oh, that's how you do it. Like, and hearing I was like, and like, obviously working with John Hagstrom in the teeth thing, and but listening to him play in a small room really gave me an idea of how low register resonance should happen. Stuff like that. Just listening to Vince Penn's, like going back to listen to those New York Phil recordings, not just listening to Phil, but listening to the second trumpet part and listening to the way Vince Penn's played. Like the fact that, I mean, now you have Ethan, and hearing Ethan play is also inspirational. I went to a concert that they did in the park. They were doing in Heldenleben, and he was playing first B flat trumpet, and 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 I was like, oh man, like I can't play first trumpet like that. I mean, like to know that he had that ability to really play that part as well as this high C was like killing it. The next few days it was inspirational for me, just like to work on high Cs. Just like I've been watching Stuart Stevenson's videos of him playing excerpts and hearing him play those beautiful high Cs in Mahler 7, and I was like, oh man, I gotta get on it, just hearing these things, these people that are inspiring me all the time.
Like Ethan playing off the buildings, playing piano.
Oh God, I mean the sound.
I watched that like over and over.
I think I watched that that Rent 5,000, 25, whatever, 500, 25 minutes, whatever the name of that song is.
Yeah.
Uh, I listened to him play that probably like a dozen times because his sound was so beautiful. I mean, like, and consistent, and the phrasing, and
He was playing.
I mean,
Bridge
everything
Over
about it is so
Troubled Water.
beautiful.
I'm like,
Huh?
what is this? He played Bridge Over Troubled Water, and I was
I
like,
mean, all that stuff. It was great. I mean, yeah, these are our colleagues doing stuff that's like amazing. Watching Chris Still do his speaks, his speeches and stuff, and and all that, and the amazing way his brain works. I mean, it's been really, really fantastic. I mean, I watched a bunch of Mike Sachs's classes, First Trumpet Forward. I watched John Lewis speak. I watched all these guys. I'm just like, Ryan Dark, even he's one of my former students, but hearing his knowledge about fundamental routines and how many people he studied with over the last however many years. I mean, it's endless. All these great things. Hearing Jim Wilt teach, hearing Dave Elton teach, hearing Chris Martin teach. I even recorded something Chris Martin was playing. It's like, oh my god, that's really cool. I want to use that in my own practicing. And I think that hearing people do stuff and imitating what they do, and then coming out with your own thing that is let's say somebody plays a solo piece and then you go and play the same solo piece. And it's like we all have a different interpretation. It's great to hear. It's so great to hear people do all these these great things. That's why I like that Bud Corona thing.
oh yeah,
The daily thing where people play. It's like I can't do that every day, but hearing Chris Sala play and hearing all these other people play and contribute and hearing everybody play the same piece and hearing a different take on those pieces, it's pretty cool. I really dig it.
yeah.
I really dig hearing all the stuff out there. Maybe that makes me like a trumpet geek, but
Oh well, but it also keeps you really happy though, right? I mean, so much of what we're seeing right now are people being depressed and down about stuff, and I think it's the people that aren't practicing.
well, I'm going through that too.
I mean, we
I'm
all
going
are
through
to a
that.
degree, but I mean, I've seen some
Yeah.
people well, but you're practicing though, you're still,
I'm trying to stay motivated. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I don't know when my next concert's going to be, but playing in the park with a dancer was like, oh, that was amazing for me. Like I was so happy I did it, and I was so resistant to doing it because there were many factors why I was resistant to doing it. But she wanted me to play this piece that I know that was the most comfortable thing I felt like playing. So I did this thing in the park, and I played with Julia too. We did a Bach, and
That was great. If
and
people don't know that clip, they need to look that up.
but playing that for me was like it was an amazing amazingly like, oh god, I gotta get back to doing artistic stuff like this, like collaborating with great artists, or like collaborating with just artists in general. I mean, just like collaborating with somebody, you know. Julie and I have a fun time, but but she gets frustrated with me playing trumpet too loud, and
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to match me on violin. But like um you know, like just getting out and doing some stuff has been really been good, but it's so few and far between. Like I can't wait to get back to playing real concerts, but you know, putting out some content, trying to put out some recordings and stuff has been helpful to keep me motivated. And I do have a lot of projects sitting on my stand, so I'm gonna try to keep plugging
Got it.
away at it. Yeah,
Got it. Yeah,
yeah.
man. Man, that's awesome. And thanks for doing all that. I mean, I definitely watched those things multiple times. All the American in Paris and all the other stuff you were doing was like
Oh, thanks.
so
Thanks.
great. And what a great resource. I know that you guys have put that in sort of a Philadelphia orchestra because Cornell's done
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I did a few of those videos, and the orchestra was like, the education committee, the orchestra was looking for content, and so they asked us to do some excerpts, and so I was doing the videos. It's just kind of like I'm learning this new program, and I'm just kind of like, everybody was doing a cappella. I was like, well, I'm going to try it on iMovie, and I was trying to put these things together. I started with some Bach. I was basically just going through the sax book, you know,
Yeah.
like I started with beat, and I just kept going, you know, like, and so I was going through it, and I was like, well, what would sound good, as it would be a little bit entertaining, and also be a little bit educational. So the orchestra asked me to start, you know, like making them a little bit more educational. So I added. You can find them all on YouTube. Like I'll post the link at some point. You know, the videos that I made other than the ones that are on the website. But I added commentary and things to think about and practice in each one of those excerpts.
Right.
So, and the orchestra asked me to make it a little more presentable, you know, add my name and, you know, do that kind of stuff to it. So I learned a lot about iMovie by, you know, doing, you know, adding all that stuff and putting it together for the orchestra. And Jeff did some really great videos too. Like you see some of his videos, like he actually put the excerpt in the video,
Yeah.
and I'm planning on, that's part of my plan for the next round of excerpt things that I'm going to do. That it'll have a little bit more instructional stuff. I'm going to show how to practice some of the things, and then also add the excerpts and the section. I'm going to play with the section so that you can hear everything together, but not like I'm an authority on playing, you know, the section, but like I just want to make sure that people, you know, have a full context of how it works together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that's
yeah.
awesome. No, that's great. And yeah, learning the technology is really good. I yanked my Bach chorales off because I'm like, I don't like the sound of that. I'm gonna fix that so it doesn't sound bad.
Oh,
So
it sounded good. It's
no,
just
no, no.
it's a learning experience, though. It's like knowing which voices to record first. You know, trying to figure that out. That's one
Yeah.
of the hardest things for me, especially when it comes to like an excerpt. Like I'm doing Miraculous Mandarin right now. Like, how do I do the tempo changes to make it work? How do I follow myself when there's rests? You know, like do I count during the rests out loud and then remove it from the recording? You know, there's so many things. Like I've started making click tracks by doing this. You know, like, you know, so that I have something to play with. You know, there's ways of making click tracks which I'm learning too from YouTube, but yeah, it's a learning process. It's great to hear the product. You know, and to hear the progression of the product. If you
Yeah.
look at my first like Magnificat or Christmas Oratorio, and then see my latest or my last like what I don't know what I remember the last thing I did now, but like maybe the America the Beautiful, you know,
Yeah.
like there's a lot more elements in the America the
Yeah.
Beautiful than there was before, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, just put it out there, man. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Well, man,
Yeah,
look, I should let you run, but it's been awesome, man. I'm so glad you did
yeah,
this,
Yeah, it's been epic. This is an epic session.
it's an
We get
epic
anybody
you
we
have,
get anybody to watch for the full 2.5 hours.
they get something.
They
How
get
about
something. Yeah, like maybe we should put a code word here at the end. Like if you put this in the comments, then you've listened to the whole thing.
then we know what's
Like
up. Unless you go
um
in like 5 minutes ago, like, oh, they're still on. You know?
like yeah like uh, what's the word we can
Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin. Put Rumpelstiltskin in the comments if you watch the whole video.
You know, this video went longer than Sax's.
Oh wow. Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I watched Saxes too. I watched you guys do that the whole
yeah.
thing. I was even commenting at the end. I think
Oh
I
yeah.
like jumping in at the end. Anybody want to jump in and say hello?
Jared. And this time I figured out how to put my phone on a stand so I can see like who's watching, and like if my parents chimed in, I'd make sure I behaved. But they don't ever watch these things, so.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I haven't watched any of them actually because I can't stand my voice.
Well, I asked my mom to come by. I don't know if she did or not. I don't know how to see it on. Is it on Facebook Live right now?
Yeah, we're on Facebook Live.
Or where would I find it?
Watched.
Let's see. Where do I find it? Do I find it on your page?
Yeah, it should be. We're still on there.
We are.
I don't know that anybody's watching us right now at all.
Yeah, if they are, they've just got us on in the background, right? Like,
Now, there's a picture of Speziale back there. You see this one in the corner? Oh,
oh, that's Hugo. That's the Hugo video. Sorry, no, I was looking for the video.
Oh,
What are you?
so
Oh yeah,
you see this picture of Marie?
yeah.
That's her playing with Duke Ellington her first year.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that picture like in her office, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And there's another story that goes with that, but I'll just have to tell you that later, just in case.
Just in case she's actually watching.
In case, or somebody else is that. Oh yeah. Let's just say I called her once impersonating a very famous trumpet player, and she believed it.
Oh no. Oh wow.
That was good. It was good. I would never do that again, but it was really funny at the time.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I can't.
I was actually subletting a place from Greg Knutson in the summer at Cincinnati, and they kept getting phone calls from a state correctional facility.
Oh really?
Yeah, and so so she calls me and we were getting these collect calls, and what I didn't know was the answering machine said, if you're calling for Mark or Suzanne, who was Greg's housemate, leave a message. If you're calling for Guido, he doesn't live here. So I was like, what is it? I didn't know anything about this, right? So I get this phone call, and it's Marie, and she goes, "Hey Guido, tell Mark to call Marie," and like lowers her voice, you know. And I was like, what is she doing? So then I prank called her, and you know,
Nice.
and I invited her to an audition for an opening that had been open for.
I've got that's that's awesome. Yeah, I've got a quick one with it was Marie and I just drew a blank on his name. I just saw his name. He's an American Brass Quintet.
Kevin Cobb?
Kevin Cobb. Marie and Kevin Cobb were sitting at Valhalla at Rice, and I was taking a picture of my phone, and Kevin said, you know, like, let's flip off the camera. I forget what it was. It's like
They said that to me.
oh, okay, yeah, but she couldn't give me the middle finger, so she gave me the ring finger, or the pinky or something, right? She's so nice that she couldn't actually jokingly flip me off. So
They sent that picture, and I was like, where did that come from? She's gonna do one of these the first week of September.
oh, cool, awesome. I'll be sure to check it out. I haven't talked to her in a really long time. She
Yeah.
was great for me too. Like she helped me out too when I was in Houston when I first started in Houston, and you know, like hearing her sound, like she had that man. You know, like
She could bury an orchestra.
yeah, man. And she, you know, if people don't know her, you know, it's like she's so small. Like Ray Sasaki, like they're both like the same size. They're like, um, but like the sound. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's most of the people that study with her, you can hear that in their sound. Like because they wanted to imitate that sound. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she was my teacher for my master's, and yeah, and then she didn't play a lot in lessons, but then when she did, you're like, okay, I give up.
Okay, now I get it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
get it. Yeah, I remember her playing Pulcinella in a lesson and just going, here, bam,
But
and
she
knocking it out.
buzzed for me once uh, when I was doing the ITG competition the second time when I was doing the orchestra competition. Um, when you win or when you after you play, I think it's after you play. It wasn't before. It was before I knew I won. But after you play, they like Frank Katarabik and Maria came back and gave me comments, like a mini lesson.
Yeah,
And Marie like buzzed for me and like showed me how to buzz and like get a better sound buzzing, and that stuck in my head. Like hearing her buzz was like, oh, you want that nice, brilliant, resonant buzz. Like, oh wow, yeah,
yeah,
huh?
you could do that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool. I mean, like if you remember her buzz, it's like,
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I was and when you said that, I thought about the way her other hand would be when she was always like doing this,
yeah,
like she would do it. And
yeah.
my impersonation of her, because now nobody's watching, is I would play anything, anything. I could play anything, and she would go. That was it. That was it. And she's
I always felt like that's what Mark Gould did with me. Whenever he heard me play at New World, he'd be like, because he's like, the last time I saw Gould, he's like, "What are you doing here?" I think he never really thought I was going to amount to anything. I guess. I mean, maybe I didn't in his mind. Still, I just,
eh,
I can, there's sort of, you can't please them all, but like, he's always busting my chops. Like, what are you doing here? When is this world coming to?
oh
Yeah, no, I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was anything.
I can see her doing
Yeah.
that too.
Bum. Stop. Okay. Let's pack
Yeah,
up.
she would put the glasses on her head when
The
she.
glasses were on her head every time. The glasses were always on her head.
Oh, yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I played for her once. In fact, I played for her as a mock audition before one of my big auditions, and um, I was trying Enderall, and I had because I would get nervous in the final rounds, and I was like,
Did you tell her
maybe
that?
there's, huh?
Did you tell her you were trying Enderall? Yeah.
So I wish I wouldn't have, but at the same time, I said I'm trying this for the first time. I don't remember if I did or not. I don't remember if I told her or not, but I did it. I did it for this mock audition, and after I played, I might have told her because she said yeah, it sounded really kind of lame musically, like it just sounded boring. Like you played fine, but it was just boring. And I remember her saying that, and I was like, okay, no Enderall. Like like I can't take that stuff because it's gonna make me really lame musically, or I'm not going to take chances, or I'm going to be like, not nervous enough to like be exciting. Um,
She
although
was
I
really
have to say
concerned that
that,
there was going to be like a health side effect when she's like, "Oh, I don't know if you should be doing that." She was really
yeah.
concerned, like I was going to have a heart attack or something.
Well, there's a whole thing like you can people talk about nerves and you can get through it. Like you can learn to control that and you can learn to. But I did all that fight your fear and win. I did Don Green stuff. I took it to heart and I really and I never used drugs for any of my um, auditions prior to the Philadelphia Orchestra. And I wish I would have in a few because if I would have known the right dosage, if I would have known that I only need like 5 milligrams or something like that, like if I would have known that, it would have taken a little bit of the edge off, and maybe I wouldn't have had that automatic vibrato that that lost me the job, or it like made me more nervous because I was like, why am I shaking? Like you start thinking about that. Why am I shaking? To stop shaking. Then that's when you get all screwed up,
Yeah.
and then if like okay, I'm thinking about my breathing, I'm thinking about the music, and you're still shaking. Like you get to a point if your blood sugar is not right or whatever, and you have adrenaline, then your body just reacts and you can't stop it. It's like there's nothing you can do at that point.
Yeah.
Once your body like has too much adrenaline and your blood sugar's not right, like there's a physical thing that happens, and that drug can take a little bit of that edge off. But I still get nervous. I'm not opposed to it. It's the last thing that I would recommend. Like I think that you need to learn to be prepared, to be musically motivated, to be all that kind of stuff, and to know that when you go to an audition, you're as prepared as you can possibly be. You're just going to go out there and play as well as you can play, and don't have crazy expectations that you're going to sound like Phil Smith all of a sudden, or you're going to sound like Dave Belger or Mike Sachs, or Tom Hooten or Chris Martin or Mark Inouye, whoever. You're not going to like you're just not going to like all of a sudden be that player. So don't expect that of yourself. And I think that's what happens a lot. It's like people go to an audition and they expect that they're going to play their best that day, that they're going to play better than they've ever played before, and that's never the case.
Yeah, if you can play where you are, that's as good as you can do, right?
That's it. And you got to play like you. You can't play like somebody else. You can't go in there and be like, I'm going to be Phil Smith today. You just have to go in there knowing that you prepared like Phil Smith would prepare, or like Tom Hooten would prepare, or whatever. That you've like Jeff Strong did a whole thing about how he prepares, and you've done all that. You've done more than that. You've done whatever you can do to play the music where you feel like you own it.
Yeah.
And that's the way I felt about the music with Philadelphia Orchestra. But even though I learned one of the extras with the wrong note in it. But I guess still got the job.
Which was it?
Well, it was Mahler too. But it was like, I don't know what it was. If it was like I was learning off a part that was mismarked or whatever, but there was an accidental that I didn't carry through the bar, and it was one of the obscure moments in the piece. Like, it's not usually asked in auditions, but I played the piece 2 weeks after winning the audition, and when I'm playing it, I'm sitting on stage, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been playing a wrong note for the last 3 months. I mean, I don't know how I did that. I just convinced myself that was the right note, I guess. I don't know, but
you must have played it convincingly.
I did. I even have a recording of those, and we can go over that one day. So.
Oh man. Well, look, man. Thanks for hanging out and doing this, and this awesome. And
okay, Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin. If you watch the whole thing, say Rumpelstiltskin. It won't be a prize, but we'll know.
Oh, there'll be a prize.
Okay.
You're gonna win a place. In my heart. In my heart.
This is still. I think only Charles Calloway is watching right now from Atlanta.
Okay, well, I don't know if Chase is still here with us or not with the Zoom, but we got Guillermo and Rolando and Chase.
Can't spell it. Way to go, Chase.
Well, so now you have to go find out how to spell it.
Oh my gosh, that's impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive. Thanks for being here, Chase. I know you probably been practicing this whole time, but it's been great. No, really, we could talk for hours. We really could, and we should do that where we just talk for hours, and let's play together and do some stuff.
Let's please do that. That would be great. I'd love that. Thanks.
We all need that right now. So
we do. We'll talk on Facebook. I mean, not on Facebook, but on Zoom later then.
Okay, sounds good.
Take care, man.
Mark. Yeah, see you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Rumpelstiltskin.